testimony. That's all I got.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome. We'll call the meeting of the Beaverton Traffic Commission to order. Today is February 3rd, 2022. We just a couple of reminders. Yes, as in the chat, there will be a chance for everyone to speak on something not related to the public hearings this evening in the open agenda comment period. You will need to raise your hand and put that into the chat and you'll be called on in the order. During the public hearing, the same applies. There'll be some rules that we read, and if you need to comment, same thing, you will put your name in the chat, raise your hand, and we will go ahead and do some things there. So, all right, with that in mind then, first off, we have roll call. Oops, I almost went to the wrong one. Commissioner Moore?
Present.
Commissioner Bobadilla?
Present.
Commissioner Urbanski?
Present.
Commissioner Miranda?
Present.
And Vice Chair McClean?
Present.
Excellent, thank you. Next up, first order of business. We did not have enough people last meeting, so we decided to wait. We need to continue the last item from the last meeting that we had, which is election of the Traffic Commission officers for 2022. Mr. Khasho, did you need to say anything? We'd take nominations. I know that.
I have nothing to say about this. Yeah, somebody needs to nominate, or you could nominate yourself too. I mean,
Okay, I do know that I have been chair a while. I enjoy it and appreciate it when continue on, but if somebody is interested, by all means, we should open that up as well. Vice Chair McClean also does an excellent job, and I am appreciative of all the help.
Thank you, Ernie. I am not interested in being chairman, so if you want to continue to do it, or if anyone else wants to do it, I'm happy to let others participate.
I'd be happy to continue then, unless somebody is interested.
Not seeing anybody speak up, I will nominate Chairman Conway to continue as chairman of the Traffic Commission.
Second.
Second by,
Melissa Bobadilla.
oh, Commissioner Bobadilla, thank you. I want to make sure that we make it easy for Ms. Werner. And it is Werner, not Warner, right? So I got
It's Werner, yep.
Yes, Werner, so careful on that. All right. We need to do a, excuse me. Any other comments? We'll do a roll call then. Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
thank you. Commissioner Bobadilla.
She's
Present.
second.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Commissioner Bobadilla seconded though.
Yes.
Yes, so vote.
Yes, we still need to vote.
Right, that's what, sorry, I thought I heard somebody say second. Commissioner Bobadilla,
Aye.
okay. Commissioner Urbanski,
Aye.
Commissioner Miranda,
Aye.
still Vice Chair McClean?
Yes.
Okay, and I will say aye. Okay, with that in mind then, next is a vice chair. Not interested in being chair, but vice chair continuing or someone else, Mr.
I'm happy to do it if no one else wants to, but if someone else wants to fill in case Chair Conway is absent some meeting, it's up to you guys.
I second them, or I second your.
No, you have to first.
I will make a motion then that Vice Chair McClean continue as vice chair.
I second that.
Excellent, Commissioner Bobadilla, thank you.
Let's get all the blessings out of the way.
Okay, excellent. Roll then, Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bobadilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Urbanski,
Aye.
Commissioner Miranda,
Aye.
Vice Chair McClean,
Yes.
and Chair Conway, aye. So motion passes, and I should have said that before, unanimous on there. So thank you. And I do appreciate the support I enjoy, and I want to say thank you to Ms. Werner and to Mr. Khasho. Also, Sgt Shaw and Sgt Mastripolito, thank you both. I appreciate you guys coming. I know it's a lot of work. Sergeant Scher was here a lot, and it's not an easy thing, especially at night, especially after a long day too. So I want to appreciate everybody that supports this commission and all the help that we get from everyone on that. Thank you. Next up, consent agenda. Consent agenda that we have are the meeting minutes of the last time we met, which was January 6th. And I would, having read them, I would make a motion to approve as written the consent agenda items.
I only had that one little thing. Did you fix that, Ms.
I
Werner?
fixed it, yes. I spelled your name properly.
Okay, good. Then I second.
Okay. Motion by Chair Conway, seconded by Commissioner Miranda. Roll call then. Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Bobadilla,
Abstain. I wasn't there.
thank you. Commissioner Urbanski,
Aye.
Commissioner Miranda,
Aye.
and Vice Chair McClean.
I will also abstain.
Okay, and Chair Conway, I would say aye. So that motion passes 4-0 with 2 abstains. Thank you. Next up, we're going to take one step for clarity here. I wanted to get the business out of the way. At this point, we would entertain comments from the audience for something not on the agenda. That would be something that you were speaking of that is not related to TC 830 for the truck parking or 831 for traffic calming. If you need to make a comment about something, you certainly can.
There is someone with their hand raised.
Okay,
I'm not sure what they want to discuss the Barrows roundabout, so I will allow them to speak.
thank you. And we ask in the interest of everyone on here, please, this is a matter of public record, so you are on here for all of eternity. Please state your name, address, and concern. And when we do get to the other portion for public hearing, you do need to state whether you're for or against the hearing and whether you represent you, yourself, or an organization. So with that, Jennifer?
Yes, my name is Jennifer Boucher. I live at 16291 Southwest O'Neill Court, Portland, Oregon 97223. Is that all you needed to know?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I own a property that backs to the Barrows Rorschach roundabout, and I've been in communication with Jabra regarding issues that have happened. I have had my property crashed into twice in the last 18 months, and we have had 11 incidents in the last 18 months of crashes into personal property, drunk drivers, etc. And this last Sunday at 2:00 in the afternoon, I had a drunk driver drive through my backyard into my neighbor's backyard, missing my children and myself by a day because we were all in the yard playing at that time. So we're highly concerned with the roundabout, the safety of the roundabout, and it's me alongside hundreds of neighbors that want you guys to know of our issue. I've been dealing with Jabra, but I was not aware if everyone's been involved. I know Jeremy Shaw has been on some of our emails that we've had over the last few years, but I wanted to bring it to the entire traffic commission and ask you guys to take us seriously and really do something to help protect our personal property, the pedestrians in this area, the other drivers in this area. It's very, very dangerous at this point to even walk down the street, and I can't even have my children play in the backyard now.
All right, thank you. It sounds like since you've already worked with Mr. Khasho, that process gets started and you've done exactly what you should, which was reach out to the city. Traffic engineer will make a determination and they will do some research to help out so that when they do bring something to the commission, if it needs to come through us, they make a presentation. Sergeant Shaw will also follow up on that, and discussions happen. If the traffic engineer and the traffic department can do something without the need of the traffic commission, then they can do that as well. So there is some empowerment that the traffic engineers have already. There are some things though that definitely need to come through the commission, and they present they basically do all the background information so that when something comes up, we're aware. We appreciate in this case that you brought that up, because should this come back before the commission with a plan or an update, then we would already have some idea and have heard of it before. So definitely appreciate that. Did you have a hand up on that for a follow-up?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
No.
Sgt Shaw.
Not on that that topic. It's on another topic when we're done with first.
Okay, perfect, very good. Was there anything else then,
No.
Jennifer? All right, thank you. We'll add that to the list, and we'll do some follow-ups. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else then? Another one, Ms. Warner?
Yeah, there are two more. This one is Diane J.
Okay, Diane?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks for hearing us. My name is Diane Jancy. My address is 12999 Southwest T Rose Way, Tigard, Oregon, 97223. And that's all the upfront information you need for the record, right?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
spell your last name for me?
Sure, JANTZE.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm with Jennifer in voicing the concern about Barrows. I spoke to you, the Traffic Commission, in 2017. Way back then, I brought my two younger sons. They were in Boy Scout uniform. I'm proud to say that one of my older son actually earned his Eagle last month. And so part of that was by participating in this process. So I'm just doing a little mom brag there. But in that process, I spoke publicly about my concern then about Barrows Road and the speed and the pedestrians, and particularly my two sons that are walking to Mountainside High School. And I had presented an idea of putting a crosswalk on 160th, or a blinking flashing light. I met with Jabra and my two sons afterwards, and we talked to it and talked with Jabra. So we've been on the record several times. And then we were told the same thing. We'll look into it. We'll do a traffic study. I see that there is a traffic speed sign now, which is the one improvement I've noticed. I've lived here since 2001. It does need to be noted that the population has grown exponentially around Mountainside, and it is a commuter/drag strip for commuter hours and all hours of the day. And I hear it right from my backyard. And so I don't have the solutions, but I have the shared concern. We have had two accidents. If you drive Barrows this week, you'll see the rubble from the two cars that went into two different backyards on Barrows. And there's not a police presence that has been mentioned before that would happen. I would love to see the speed limit lowered to 30 because that's not a commuter, it's a residential road with exponential population of people walking to all various places. So that's my biggest concern, is the safety. I share it with the other neighbors in this group that have joined, and I'm proud to see that they are joining forces to an argument that I presented in 2017. I would hope that it gets expedited because this is not the first time that it has been brought up. I can say that people have been on Barrows Road interviewing the high schoolers the week after I last presented. That was when Mountainside was fairly new and there wasn't too many students there. There's a lot more now, and I worry about those walking students to school every day. So The traffic is my concern with safety. I don't have the solutions, but I'd like to get some forward progress, and I'll let others in the group speak at this time.
Is this eastbound on Barrows, correct?
Eastbound and westbound, 160th in that area between 160th and the roundabout seems to be the speed concern spot.
Okay.
The traffic regulator, if that's what it's called, is for traffic going westbound. I hear motorcyclists, I hear racers. I'm afraid to let my kids walk to school. So I don't know if putting a little, blinking walkway on 160th is more dangerous. I share the concern in the roundabout. There is not an easy walkway on the south side.
Okay. One thing I would recommend on that, Diane, is that though you're in Tigard, you can attend the Beaverton NAC, which would be across the street in there, and ask that they actually, since you don't have any solutions at this time, I would suggest you work with them to help bring a proposal, because it puts a lot of onus on the city to kind of come up with a suggestion and solution that works with everyone, where you have firsthand knowledge that is always important to hear. And one of the venues and options for that is through the neighborhood association committees, which meet monthly. And there is a NAC for that area as well.
Okay, that's helpful. Neighborhood, where it is tricky, and I will share this, is it is a multi-jurisdiction road. The south side of Barrows is Tigard, the north side is Beaverton, and Barrows Road is owned by the county. And so everyone kind of triangulates the solutions.
Right, and we are dealing with that on several options and several parts of the city as we go along, in this commission follows and understands that. So we'll ask for a follow-up from the city and see what we can do on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then,
I'm done.
thank you. Ms. Werner, was there another?
Yeah, there's two more. This is Miss Rudy.
Ms. Rudy, thank you.
Thank you. I live at 12805 Southwest Night Heron Lane, Unit 101. I bought my home in 2014. I personally reached out to David Donaldson in 2018 about these issues. And in doing so, he said he was going to be installing LED lights, which I do believe happened. He stated he would also put in flexible guideposts that are reflective on the island in the middle of the road to provide greater visibility to let drivers know the road is changing as they approach the roundabout. I'm not 100% sure that happened. He said new striping and pavement marking would occur. He said new and better signage would occur. And he also said that he would revisit the roundabout personally with the traffic engineer in about 6 months to see if they are helping any of these. Personally, I've been on scene for almost every single accident that's occurred. And while I've not taken photos, that death in 2017, I remember it vividly. This isn't okay. And this constant, we've given several different proposals and ideas, whether it's, there's 4 different crosswalks, one on each side of exit and entrance on the roundabout. We're like, hey, maybe we can put flashing lights on that. Jabra came back to us saying, well, we don't typically put flashing crosswalks on two-way roads. Yet there's still these lights that were put up on 2 other crosswalks down Barrows within the last 3 years. We've said, let's raise them, let's make them like humps, let's, because there's a ton of traffic here. And that was rejected. We've said, let's put boulders and trees in place to protect the homes and to stop these vehicles from harming others. And I think from what I remember, the pushback on that was, well, that will hurt the people in the vehicle. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so, well, this is a perfect, thank you for coming forward. This is a perfect, like I mentioned to Diane and also for Jennifer too, the best thing that you can do is to unite and present your solutions. And also I would bring that up with again, with the NAC, and we'll find out what happens, because the multi-jurisdiction does cause issues. And I can tell you that there are some other areas in the city that have the same
There's
similar.
been 124 reported accidents between 2012 and 2020 on Barrows alone.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll
What are you
find
guys
out.
going to do to actually provide solutions? Because you're rejecting all of ours.
I beg to make the distinction that we're not, but we will find out from the city what the options are, because I don't believe, except bringing those up at this point, that we've rejected anything. So we'll find out
I
from
will
the city.
forward you the emails, Ernie. I will absolutely forward them to you.
Correct, but what I'm saying is that the commission is not part of the city. We are a body of citizens who help do exactly what you're requesting we do. So what we do now is we ask the city to come back and explain what the difference is, find out the jurisdictions, let's find out what the options are, and see what the city and county has put together. And has Tigard been involved as well?
Yes.
And see what happens then. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, because we will do we can now do a follow-up.
Commissioner Conway, can I say something about the NAC? Because I think that's really important that this goes to the neighbors southwest. And that's what you invited them already, but it's on the Beaverton website if you don't know which NAC to address. And they have the meetings there also posted. Just in case that wasn't clear to the people who spoke.
Right, it's like the traffic calming process that is done when the neighborhood community presents to the meeting. Then the NAC as a whole can go. I can tell you that as a member of the NAC, and I believe that most of the commissioners here are involved as well, that when we have an idea of the issues and the concerns and what you think are an excellent solution, that definitely helps. So that there's a place to start. And the NAC as a forum allows you that object. You can request to be on their agenda, or you can then have a discussion on that. You can bring that up and say, okay, what do we do? You can ask the NAC when you're on the agenda to have somebody from the city actually come and present. And then that gets started, because if you don't feel that you're getting a response from the city, then I would pursue exactly what we suggest that you do. It sounds like the county didn't respond. I would invite the county to the NAC meeting. I know that we've done that at my NAC. We're in a spot where we're dealing with Portland, Beaverton, Tigard, Washington County, and you cross the street and you're in a whole another county city. And that is extremely frustrating for a lot of people. So the best place to do is to start. And if you don't have a venue or an option for that, that's exactly what the Neighborhood Association Committee for Beaverton does. That's exactly what they're there for, is we'd like to be on the agenda. You can go and speak. Every public hearing, public meeting that Beaverton does has an option for a public agenda comment period. And the first thing to do is to go to that meeting and say, we want on the agenda, we want to get this going. And then you have somebody that you can speak to. They have the work through with the city. They can invite a traffic engineer. They can invite someone from Washington County. If they don't get an answer, then it can be escalated, because somebody can say, why won't these people come to our meeting, right? These are city meetings that are part of public record. And that's exactly what they're meant to do, is a go-between between the public and the community and the citizens and the city. And if you don't feel that's working, that's exactly what they're there to help with. And if they don't understand, they can facilitate it. And if they need to go higher, then they can go higher. So I appreciate everybody bringing that forward and delivering that. So thank you.
There is
was-
one more person with their
Okay.
hand raised. This is Kelly Red.
Kelly, thank you.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just am in support of everyone else. I live at 12805 Southwest Night Heron Lane, Unit 100. We bought this house about a year and a month ago, and since we've lived here, there have been at least five accidents that we've seen. I'm hesitant to let my child play in the backyard for fear of him getting hit by a car. So I'm just here in support of all of that, and I will be reaching out to the NAC to get us on the agenda for the next meeting. And yeah, I think everything else has been said. We are eager to get a solution in place.
Excellent, thank you. And I will say, Kelly, if you are trying to do that, if you can't find the information that you know on the website, you can call the City of Beaverton and ask for the neighborhood program. You can speak to Lanny Parr, and she is the manager of that program. She will take care of getting you in contact with the chair, and from there they work through it. That's exactly how it works in my NAC. Somebody will reach out and say, we need some help. We talk to them, and if they need to, we get them on the agenda. And if they just need to get in contact with somebody, we do that too. But again, it sounds like you're to the point where you have enough people who have some ideas and thoughts, and they can present some constructive communication and how to begin a process solution.
Yeah, and just so y'all are aware, there is a cooperative maintenance agreement for Barrows, and it is maintained and managed by the City of Beaverton. So
perfect. All right, thank you. Ms. Werner, were there other comments? Okay, and then Sergeant Shaw, sir.
I just, as we talk about things going around the city, I just want to remind everybody, I'm on a group that talks to the ODOT folks that are doing the 217 project. And as you guys, as commissioners, work through these sort of issues around the city, just that project is going to be going on until 2025. And 217, they have permits to close down one direction of 217 for up to like 11 days in a row. So it's already a mess now, and we're just in the beginning stages of that. It's just going to become bigger and bigger mess until it gets all done, and then it'll be fabulous and nice and new and hopefully help with traffic. But until then, I just want to remind and give you guys a heads up that's going to be going on for a very long time.
All right, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I know that the commission faced that before with the changes that went on with the overpasses. There was some redirection when Scholls and Allen were being worked on, and the flow just, they presented to a couple of the NACs that were along and bordered 217, but I don't think they fully understood what happened once somebody got off the off ramp and turned onto a street, and for them it was kind of done. So yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Excellent reminder, and we'll see what happens with that. Commissioner Bobadilla.
I'm sorry, Sergeant Shaw, can you remind, when is the anticipated 11-day closure happening? I missed.
So they currently have permits to do that. There is no timeline of when they're actually going to do it. But they currently have permits to do it. So they have permission to do it at some point in time when they need to. They have a whole website dedicated to this project. You can go to ODOT's website and see the 217 project, and you can go to their website to find out more information, and they keep it pretty much up to date weekly. We have a meeting weekly on Thursdays, and their public information person is on that meeting. So she keeps up to date on all those closures, lane closures, detours, all that kind of stuff. So you can find that there. But just thought I'd remind you guys, this is massive.
Well, what I just think that we can do as a city is, like, I understand there's permits, but if we sometimes get kind of like a heads up, let the public know. I know I get those FYI sometimes from the City of Beaverton or something coming, because there's an opportunity to hopefully, like, people that are more working from home. Hey, just an FYI, you may want to avoid that area for the next week or and a half. Just a suggestion which can help anything to alleviate that kind of storm that is about to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
I know there's a website, don't get me wrong, Sgt Shaw, but come on, how many people are going to really go up to it and get and find out what's going on every day, every week? And I'm just suggesting if any of that is huge, important, would be so valuable for us. And I'm sure to help you guys there too.
Yeah, it'll be up on all the reader boards too for the motoring public. They'll put that kind of stuff up on the reader boards so people know.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. And if you do have questions, you can reach out. There's a note of contact on the main webpage, and they've also presented to MINAC, but they've been she has been extremely responsive. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out directly to them. But yeah, I think that most of the bulk of that work is down on the replacement bridge, Commissioner Bobadilla. I think when they're ready to actually replace, that's the one that they're going to fully replace. So we shall see. All right, thank you. Any other public comment, concern on that? Okay, seeing none, then we will go to the next portion, and that will be the public hearings. We're going to read an opening statement. This statement will apply to both TC 830 and to TC 831. And we will begin and follow through the process, at which point, if you have a comment and you do plan to speak, you raise your hand, and Ms. Werner will identify you and call in the order that you raise your hand. So with that in mind, statement of the chair, openings of each hearing. This traffic commission will now hold a hearing on TC number 830, truck parking on Northwest Bethany Court south of COrnell Road, and TC 831, traffic calming plan for Southwest 155th Terrace between Southwest Snowy Owl Lane and Southwest Scholls Ferry Road. The hearing will begin with a report from the city traffic engineer, followed by testimony from the person who submitted the proposal. City traffic engineer's report will list the applicable substantive criteria and reasons behind the recommendation. We will then hear testimony from other interested parties. If you wish to testify, please clearly state your name, address, whether you are for or against, and if you represent yourself or other people when given permission to speak on the phone or through video. Your evidence is testimony and must be directed to the criteria in section 6.02.060, determined to be applicable by the city traffic engineer or other criteria, current city, metro, TriMet, state, or federal laws or policies which you believe apply to our decision. After the hearing is closed, the commission will deliberate on evidence received and make an oral decision to approve with conditions, or deny the proposal. The decision will not be final until a final written order is signed by the chairperson. All persons who testify will receive a written notice of the final decision of the commission. Decisions of this commission or recommendations to city council become effective after approval by council. Typically, traffic commission recommendations appear on the consent agenda in the council and are approved by the council without discussion. City council ordinarily does not conduct a public hearing on such recommendations. Any decision of the commission may be appealed, though, to the city council. When an appeal is properly filed, a separate hearing will be scheduled before council. Any appeal must be filed with the city recorder within 10 days of the date of the traffic commission's final written order. The procedures related to the written appeal are available from the Office of City Traffic Engineer and our city recorder. So thank you for that. One note, if you are speaking and you feel you want your voice heard, by all means, please speak. If you're going to say something that somebody else has already said, it is perfectly acceptable to be on the record as saying, I completely agree with the previous testimony, in which case it carries the same value and weight, but it does assist in the interest of time when people have similar points to make. So thank you. If you do have something new, by all means, please bring that up. With that in mind, then we'll begin public hearing on TC 830 and begin with staff comments. Mr. Khasho.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before I do the report on the issue, I just want to make one comment that I emailed you just an hour ago. That was the last written testimony received after the packet was mailed to you. It was sent to the city after 5 p.m., but I did forward it to you. With that, I will do the report on the issue. This request was from Mr. Todd Griswold. He requested restricting truck parking on Northwest Bethany Court south of COrnell Road. He's concerned about safety And he indicated that when trucks are parked on both sides of the street, it restricts two-way traffic, and also it will restrict emergency vehicle access. Back in February 2020, under TC 801, the Traffic Commission reviewed the truck parking on Northwest Bethany Court and recommended denial of the request. At that time, there was a request to restrict truck parking at night, and that request was denied. The Traffic Commission at the time recommended just restricting parking near the driveways, and this was completed. The pavement width of Bethany Court is 36 feet, is approximately 750 feet long, and it is classified as a local street. It is a dead-end street with a cul-de-sac. It serves office, industrial, and general services businesses, including a daycare on that street. It has sidewalks on both sides, and it has 7 commercial driveways. The Waterhouse Trail connects to Bethany Court at the end of the cul-de-sac, and it continues on street on Northwest Bethany Court. Then people will cross Cornell Road to continue on that path. Actually, it continues on street on the Bethany Boulevard, which is the north side of Cornell Road. During field visits to the site, staff monitored truck parking and observed the demand for on-street parking from businesses along Northwest Bethany Court. It was observed that the demand for on-street parking from those businesses is very low. And also it was observed that the trucks that were parked on the street did not belong to those businesses. It was observed an average between 2 and 7 trucks during those visits. So staff is proposing to restrict truck parking on Northwest Bethany Court, and we're asking the Commission to approve this request tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions first to the Commission?
Yes.
Commissioner McClean or Vice Chair McClean, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khasho. 2 questions. So I just want to clarify, you're recommending just restricting truck parking, but on-street parking or, sedans or regular vehicle parking, you're saying that's fine?
Correct.
Can I ask to elaborate, like, what's the reason for that? Like, is it because the length of the vehicle makes it a safety concern if people are crossing the street, or what's the safety difference for a truck parking on the street versus just a regular vehicle?
An average width of a truck, it's typically 8 feet wide. So when you have 2 trucks on the street and they need some buffer between where the tires are and the curb, so you'll end up eating basically almost 10 feet of that 36 feet. So you'll end up with 16 feet for two-way traffic. And you cannot pass 2 vehicles at the same time.
Okay, thank you. And one more quick question, sorry. You mentioned like you believe that the trucks that are parking there are not related to the businesses that are on the street. That's just from the observations you made in February 2020?
It's the same. No, it's new observation.
New observation.
2020, and no, this is just the last month or so. We've been visiting that street almost every day.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Urbanski.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. First, is the parking restriction to be 24 hours a day or just overnight parking?
We're recommending 24 hours a day.
Okay, and then the second question is it necessary to restrict the parking on both sides of the street? It looks like most of the driveways are on the south side. That's where most people are turning into the various businesses. Is there a need to restrict the parking on the north side of the street? I mean, do you need to have it on both sides?
It's probably better to have it on both sides, because the the remaining width will be enough for two-way traffic. Even delivery trucks, will have more room to maneuver if you do both sides. Also, another problem with the trucks when they park there, regardless, how far you restrict parking from the driveways, due to the size of the truck, people exiting the driveways, they cannot see you. And that's another issue.
Okay, and can you assure us that none of the businesses have a need to park there even occasionally during the daytime?
Businesses are in that area, they all have big parking lots and loading docks if they use trucks. So we believe there will not be an issue. If there was an issue, they would have sent us at least, we posted signs about this hearing on the street. So I'm sure if they have issues with it or concerns, they would have sent us an objection about it. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Miranda?
Yeah, I think I have only two questions, but first one is it possible to have for any of the businesses to get a permit to park their trucks there if that ever changes?
We don't have a process to give permits for trucks to park or anybody to park in a no parking zone. We get these requests. Let's say somebody want to move and they're going to bring a trailer in to move to a new home or an apartment. We allow them to park on the street to load and unload. They just ask, send a request by mail, and we say, yeah, we take a look, first, is it a safety issue or not? If it's not, if it's for a short period of time, we will allow it. But it's very rare we get those where parking is restricted and somebody want to park there.
And so then so I have three questions. Okay. Oh, well. The other one is, what's this? How are you? So you said trucks, but what is that sizing? How are you sizing that? And does that include, RVs that could end up parking there, that kind of stuff?
RVs can park because the definition of a truck, it's a vehicle that its use is just to move goods. It's not for to move people or hold people in. Yeah.
And then last question was, what's different between when the commission denied it to now?
The commission denied it at the time because we had similar requests on other streets near Cornell, and 167th was one of them, and Twin Oaks was the other one. And when we reviewed the truck parking on those streets, the commission allowed certain areas for trucks, and they will be able to park for 48 hours on those areas. So it was kind of a split, a happy medium, where areas trucks could not park, but we allowed it in certain areas. And then this issue came in, and the traffic commission at the time said, majority of it is industrial, and we're not gonna just keep pushing, trucks somewhere else. So at the time, that's why there was hesitation basically to approve the truck restrictions. The approval was not unanimous at the time. Some were for, some were against, but it failed. Yeah.
But then, I mean, still, what's the difference? If we still have not enough space, I mean, there are not more streets where those trucks can go to, so they will go somewhere where another street.
Like I said, there's other two streets that they can park on, and the trucks should not be left, for weeks on the street. I mean, to be honest, in those areas where we allow trucks to park, they're using it as a holding area, and sometimes they leave the trucks over a week. Just storage. So for that type of behavior, we don't want to encourage it, and to just basically the whole area will be for storage, and we're trying to avoid this by restricting it where there is a need to restrict it. There is a daycare on the street. Also, there is a gymnastics place that parents always dropping kids and picking up kids. So for those reasons, we're asking the truck restriction at this time.
Is that everything, Commissioner Miranda?
Well, I would have said that I liked Commissioner Urbanski's suggestion to maybe do only one side and then restrict it to 48 hours. And if they are longer there, then do the same thing so that it doesn't go into other areas. But that's just, I mean, it's just a.
That is for this commission, that is an option. So you can always keep that in mind. And a reminder to everyone involved that after the public hearing and comments close, there is some discussion between the commission. And at that point, there is, as we noted, a decision to approve as written, approve with modifications, or deny. So many things are available to us as well. Commissioner Urbanski, follow-up question.
A follow-up question about definitions of a truck. If an 18-wheeler goes down that street and the cab disconnects from the trailer and they leave the trailer and the cab drives off, that's going to be a visual and, the same kind of problems, but technically that's not a truck anymore. So would this new ruling prohibit people just leaving their trailers there?
It still is a motor truck. And
by definition, it's just a trailer.
By definition, the function of that vehicle is to move goods and not people. So it is a truck.
So that would fall under that definition then. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, one follow-up, Mr. Khasho. When this came before us, before we had kind of 167th came up several times, and as soon as we had a discussion and a modification of 167th, then 169th around the corner, that became an issue, and then 170th up the street became an issue. There was a discussion on the side street there where U-Haul uses the public street for their business, Twin Oaks Drive. They, when I went by, are still have their business vehicles in the street. So I guess the question and concern was the logic for doing both sides, and where do we anticipate the people to go? I mean, it wasn't full on any of my visits. There were two, but it's apparent throughout the city, as we've seen the last few months and over the last few years, that the rise, especially with the HOP program now, where do we anticipate that they're going to go? Or do you anticipate that they're going to move up the street and we'll have an issue there?
Typically, there is truck stops that they could park their trucks, but truck drivers choose not to do it because there is a fee associated with it. And if you watch the trucks that are parked on 167, they're all like moving trucks, and you'll see 4 or 5, and then all of a sudden they disappear, and you see a pickup truck parked there with the same name on the pickup truck and the big truck. So they just they use the street basically, I hate to say it, is to run a business from the street and to use the street for storage. And if the commission decide, to do it on one side, that's your choice too. So.
Okay, one follow-up to that, I guess, in response to Commissioner Miranda's question and Commissioner Urbanski's statement, the solution of parking on one side of the street on 167th has been, in my opinion, very successful, because we haven't heard any that has not come back before us. And that was not considered an option because in the beginning, a happy medium to start, because it does seem like the issues with the amount of parking available is definitely diminishing. And as we heard in testimony before, there is no truck stop. Where's the nearest truck stop that they would park if they had to make a delivery to that general area?
Is this question for me, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. I was wondering what given the issues we've seen and on 167th and the testimony from other people, where do we anticipate? My concern, I think, as we begin this discussion, is where are the anticipated folks going to go? Because every time we've had an issue with parking and somebody wanting to restrict it, it basically moves somewhere else, and that doesn't seem to be a solution to the problem. So is this a happy medium for one side? Is that
That's okay, but another option could be, you could restrict overnight truck parking. So if somebody want to use the street for certain reason, loading, unloading, they could use it during the day, but they cannot leave the truck overnight or store the truck on the street. That's another option. But at the end, it's what this commission feel they need to do. And after you hear testimony, maybe you decide whichever way you would like to go. That's fine.
all right? Thank you. Commissioner Bobadilla.
Yeah, my first question was, I do like the idea of restricting overnight parking. I think that could really help, especially since it seems to be from the testimony, that the written testimony, there seems to be a lot of activity there between the afternoon, 3 o'clock, and in the evening. So that could probably be a good solution. My concern, and I know we talked about this when this came up before us back in 2020, wouldn't we just be moving the traffic to go to the other side by just blocking one side and just still pushing the trucks that now they'll still park on the other one? Just thinking out loud. And my other concern is, I don't think it's right that the city should bear the burden of becoming a parking storage for them there. I understand we need trucks, I understand, but it's also the owner's responsibility to figure a place out of where they need to store their trucks. Probably get a storage facility or place where they should be storing them. The storage trucks, and I've been in that area too, those trucks, it's not because they're doing delivery. They don't have a place of where they're parking them. But that's a business problem. And they need to provide that. If not, they're shouldering that to the city that we need to provide that for them. We're running out of parking and it's becoming more of an issue. And I'm more concerned this time around because of the security issue there of all those children and families, that when you stand there, you can't see. You can't see to walk out. And in the winter at 5 o'clock, it's dark already, pitch dark. So just wanted to chime in and just hopefully that we can talk about some of those.
Excellent point. Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Khasho, right now? Okay, excellent. With that in mind, then we'll open the public comment portion. Ms. Werner.
First person we have is Todd Griswold.
Thank you, Mr. Griswold.
Can you hear me now, folks? Thanks.
Yes.
Okay, Todd Griswold, Meg Griswold, 9175 Southwest 171st Avenue. And what you folks are talking about is great, and I appreciate it. To put us on an agenda, thank you very, very much. Jabra, he's a professional, and his follow through for us has been tremendous. You're lucky to have him. We've been on Bethany Court for 24 years. Things have changed tremendously. But what you folks are talking about, and please, let's get into a discourse, back and forth. In hearing what you guys are saying, you're looking for a solution. I've talked to probably 10, 12 truckers in the past 2 years, it hasn't been pleasant. They feel it's their right to park there, and they're rude, and we just kind of walk away. But the solution to the problem, one trucker said, in Arizona, we have areas where we could pay to park our trucks. There is a gate and there is a guard. I'm going, wow. The old Beaverton bus barn on Allen Boulevard. That's the solution to the problem. I mean, it took us 2 years to find this. You know, Mr. McClean, and I'm looking through, Miranda, you guys have had some wonderful questions. Henrik, please talk to me. But there's a lot of people that are traveling on this Beaverton, or excuse me, Bethany Court, that never walked there before. The Waterhouse Trail has come in, and it's exponential. It's great, but they're walking on the streets. But the biggest thing is the electric vehicles, and all of you have seen it since the COVID. They're on scooters, they're on these one-wheel things, no helmet, and scooting right down Bethany Court. And it's gone down from, Jabra, you can see it there, and I have 46 feet to 17 feet 10 inches. I mean, there's really no room. And Melissa, I think you said it best. When we pull out of our driveway, anybody else does, you have a wall in front of you. You don't have a sedan that you can see over like all of us drive every day. You have a wall. You can't see around it. So it's really, really tough. None of these trucks are local to us. None of them. And I'm going to step out and say 100%. We've been here for 24 years. These trucks don't belong here. And my wife and I feel very comfortable that 50% of them, with the wives that come and drop the drivers off, they have Washington license plates. I can't explain that to you, Ed. I can't tell you why, as you nod your head, that why they come from Washington to park here, except for it may be easy. And I don't think that you folks, us, have allowed that. I think it's just one of those things that's happened, you know, and I'm all for, you know, not having any trucks on Bethany Court the way it's been for, you know, yeah, we've been here for 24 years. It's our neighborhood. It's not your neighborhood. And thank you, everybody. You know, Ernie, you came out and took a look. A lot of you came out and take a look. We appreciate that stuff. We really didn't see it happen. In the middle of the day, there's nothing that goes on. OGA can get 200 to 300 kids in there, or Gymnastics Academy, excuse me, and fill up the street. We can fill up the street when we have a hockey, soccer facility at the end, and we can put 4 or 5 or 6 cars on one side. OGA's got cars on the side, and I don't know where they're going right now. But I'm open to discussion. You know, Jeremy, if you want to ask any questions for me, Sherry, but you know, that's about all Megan and I have. Just thank you for putting us on your agenda. And I say again, Jabra, you've been so solid all the way through all of this. So thank you.
Thank you. Sgt Mastripolito.
Yes, I can. My team has responded to that area as well as Twin Oaks and 167 on these trucks for a couple of years. The vast majority of them are owner operators who, Mr. Griswold is right, they'll bring their staff in the morning to get in the trucks. Sometimes we'll respond to abandoned vehicles because they'll bring up a sedan, park it, get in the truck, leave with the truck, and then the sedan may stay there for a few days, and then they'll swap it out. The overnight parking could be good because it's not a residential area, so we can't enforce the city code that prohibits truck parking in a residential area. So that would give our officers an opportunity to enforce, at least start to educate these folks that they can't park overnight, and that may alleviate their parking there. But some are local, some are definitely from out of the area, and they just park them up there because it's convenient off the highway. And that we know that because we've spoken to them when we find them.
But you know, Ossifer, I don't want to get into, and Meg and I don't want to get into a situation where we're calling the cops to police this thing. You know, you guys have a lot of better things to do than to do that. So I don't know the solution to that. Ed, do you? I mean,
Well, we have a group of community service officers who do some parking enforcement up in that area. So if it was posted no overnight parking, they would just go up and enforce. They do it in other parts of the city now anyway. So that's kind of part of their responsibility.
okay.
So, I mean, it definitely wouldn't fix it overnight, but over time with some education and citations, I think you may start to see a difference.
Thank you.
Well, commissioners, we have seen a change in the last 2 weeks since the signs have been put up not to park around the driveways. We have seen a little bit of lessening, but in all honesty, at times, some trailers have been parked there without their, cabs for as much as 2 weeks. Just sitting.
Thank you. Commissioner Bobadilla, question.
Yeah, this for the sergeants. Is there, I guess what I'm concerned is about creating rules that have no teeth. And really it's going to be pointless, right? Is there consequences if they violate those rules? Can they get ticketed? I understand we first give people warnings and all that, but what's their true effect?
So they would be ticketed and it could eventually go to collections. There's really no avenue to impound the vehicle due to their size. I really don't have a tow company that has a record big enough to pull those trailers out of there. So like I said, it would take some time and over education, and we'd get creative, but that's really all we could do at this point.
No, but I appreciate that, because again, we can have some degree of consequences or something like that and be sticklers about it. That's the only way the rules are going to work. If not, they're going to be like, whatever. You tell me.
I mean, the smaller trucks, the moving vehicles or the painting trucks, the tow companies will take those because they can store them. But the real big ones, we have problems with finding them to take them.
Excellent. I'd like to come back and do this during discussion. Are there any questions for Mr. Griswold, though? I do have one, sir, then, as a follow-up, and I understand, appreciate the comments and concerns on that. I see that the on my visits, adults walked straight across the cul-de-sac going up the road. They didn't actually go up Bethany Court. Everybody seems to be going straight. I think not everybody was taking that. Have you worked with THPRD? And I'm just curious what your opinion is of people not using the sidewalk. There's sidewalks on both sides of the street. It doesn't sound like people are actually doing the lawful, smart, intelligent. It's the number one complaint of the Beaverton Vision Committee in their survey was that Beaverton lacks walkability and sidewalks, yet here we have them, and the concern is people walking in the street. And I wonder what your opinion is of are the kids not walking and being told to walk on the sidewalk and kept out of the way?
Brad, Ernie, is that a question for me, Todd?
Yes, sir. I just wondered if you had worked with THPRD, their sign directs everybody to go up one Bethany Court until the overpass bridge is built, at which point I suspect everybody will be walking up the road with no name there by the gymnastics place.
Right,
and then it'll cross
that's kind of an arterial little 2-lane road that goes in and out of there. And I would say 50% of the passengers or the people that are walking, pedestrians, go that way. The vehicular traffic is almost 100% up Bethany Court. Yes,
no,
you're right.
I was concerned about the pedestrians going, the pedestrians on there. What's the concern I read from several items was that safety was the issue. And I'm wondering, with sidewalks on both sides, what do you think is the problem with people? They've noted they're going down the street. So are they not keeping their children and people using the path not following the sidewalks?
I think Commissioner Conway think that the people that may park and have room and want to go to OGA will park on the street, open their door if they can find a space between the truck when they're not there and OGA, and they go to the west. I think that a lot of the customers, or a lot of pedestrians, correct, do walk on the sidewalks. Normally on the east side, which is on the indoor goal side, they honestly, they don't cross the street, all that much. There are some aim high people that have a number of businesses over on the west side that do cross the street, and they cross it at anywhere that they can. On Bethany Court, they have a, I'm going to say, handicapped or autistic kids that they walk a tremendous amount in the cul-de-sac area when the weather's good. Right now in the wintertime, they're not out there, but
right. Okay.
These children, yeah.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Griswold?
No, I don't think so, but just thanks, guys, for looking into it and trying to help us out, because
Thank you.
It could be a lot better. Thanks.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Ms.
thanks
Werner?
a lot for your help.
All right, next.
This is Doug.
Doug?
Hello,
Hello.
Doug Omby, and that's OWNBY. My address here is 16500 Northwest Bethany Court, number 150, Beaverton, Oregon, 97006. And I will agree with the last testimony. Thank you for the time and you guys listening to us today. If you guys are able to look at the city traffic engineer report on page 3 of the map, you will see right where COrnell and Bethany meet there, that whole long building that you see right up front. Well, I guess I should be clarifying, I am the executive director of Aim High PDX.
Thank you.
We have 4 essentially locations. 3 of them are in that first building you see up front in COrnell and Bethany. And we have majority of that space. Right at the end, we have a martial arts school. We are a nonprofit. We have a martial arts school of upwards of 400 students right now. As well as we have 2 medical health clinics that are in that location. And we are serving in that location about 30 clients that are severely impacted by autism. Also, if you look at the map, the building right behind me, I know OGA is on here, so they'll probably speak on, I won't speak on their behalf, but the building right behind us, majority of that is OGA. And I believe, they're probably on the upwards of 1,000 students that attend that organization. And then if you look at the very back of that cul-de-sac right there, you don't see the building in behind the cul-de-sac, but it's broken up mainly between 2 businesses. And one is Sage, which they do have trucks, more like linen trucks, box trucks. And then we also have our other clinic in there for kids with autism. Our kids range from the ages of 7 to 18, highly impacted by autism, and have to work one-on-one with a therapist to essentially monitor and help them with their severe behaviors. We're talking flight behaviors, aggressive behaviors, things that the Beaverton School Districts refers to a lot of their clients to our organization to work with on a daily basis. And then if you go back and look at the map as well, the next building next to us on the Bethany on the other side is Indoor Goals, which we just heard from. And then if you go to the building right next to that, that is Doctors Loose, not just a daycare, but also they have pediatricians on site seeing children there as well. And we're looking at ages, 0 to 5, I believe they serve there. Yes, we could direct traffic our trucks on one side, not have overnight parking, but our clinics and Doctors Loose and things like that, we have kids walking on those trails during the day, all day long. Yes, the wintertime is less, when the weather is really, really bad. And then if you look at Indoor Goals, Aim High, and OGA, we're talking in the upwards of a couple thousand students. And in the evening time, we can't see there either, right? So it's become a nightmare. On top of that, the trucks don't just park there. Then they bring trucks in, big trucks in to maintenance these trucks. So sometimes I can't even get through there and have to go around OGA to get out of there, which causes quite a problem. So I think going, and I get this is not the city's, always the city's issue to solve everyone's individual, but we have children wrapped around that whole cul-de-sac. It's not just one little building here and one little building there. It's the whole cul-de-sac. And it has become quite the issue, as well as that trail. I agree with Todd, the trail is busy. We have a lot of people that like to go on the trail. It goes to a beautiful park. I mean, it's gorgeous, but it's when I've noticed, and I know we've got an officer on here, we've made several calls over the times, because it tends to be when we get a lot of trucks, there is a lot of reports of thieving. There's a lot of reports of homelessness starts coming in here. I had a gentleman here in the summertime. I had to bring 2 officers here twice. There's reports of that, where he was full on nothing, drunk, drugged out here with our children, and we're having to get law enforcement again involved. And I know that's not always to do with truckers. It's not to put it on them, but it starts this pattern when you can't see areas, when it's not open. And I will tell you, with the clients that we serve, there's also, you'll see there's a report of this as well about 2 months ago, because of the nature of our clinics that we serve these children, and the behaviors of our children. Like, we had to have a situation where we had officers at the stoplight blocking off traffic and stopping the street because one of our children were out. That was a safety factor, right? We had officers on both sides that were amazing. Beaverton PD did a great job, locked that whole section down because of, we had to get the parent there. We had to get some psychologists involved. We had about a dozen staff. I had some pediatricians out from Doctors Loose helping out the situation with this kid with major, disabilities. But when lucky for us, those trucks weren't there, because if those trucks were there when that child had gotten out, we would have been we wouldn't have been able to get law enforcement in there. We wouldn't have been able to block that off and make it a safe environment so we could remove him safely. So I really encourage you, and I know this is not all your concerns and the city's concerns, but I'll tell you, me and the executive director of OGA, we have begged, pleaded, and bartered with our landlords, and I have locations with multiple landlords. They will not do anything to get involved. They will not do anything to help us. Everybody wants to push it on everyone else. And I promise you, a child is going to get hurt. A child is going to die. And I don't want to say that. I'm a father of multiple daughters, but Doctors Loose, when they have their kids, they hook them together from ages 2-year-olds, barely even walking, on those straps that they hook together, and you've got 7 or 8 of kids together, and they're going to come around these corners one day, and one of them and they're going to get hit, and we're going to hear it on the news. We're going to know we've talked about this time and time again, but no one will help us with this situation. I know Twin Oaks is the street right next over. I'm not bringing that up as an issue, but I can tell you right now, there is the amount of police reports due to vandalism. I mean, we had Cadillac converters stolen out here the other day, and we're in a nice part of the city. Like, I mean, I had my $4,000 trailer in the back the other day just stolen right off the back, which was locked down. And this is a nice neighborhood. So I'm going to really just ask you to reconsider. I know you guys are looking for healthy solutions, but I can promise you, putting the trucks to one side or not doing overnight is not going to solve the issue. I think we need to eliminate the truck parking here. And I know that it's probably going to put the burden on your shoulders, because it's probably, like you said, going to move down the street. But I promise you, our children right now are in danger. And I don't say that lightly. I'm proud of the position that I'm doing. I'm proud of the companies every company that surrounds us right here. We have so many youth facilities. I can tell you, I don't know any place in Beaverton that has this many youth facilities that work. We have no issues. We all work really well together, and we're all trying to serve the community. And being that you have 2 of the largest nonprofit facilities here working with children too, like, please consider that, because
all right, thank you. Let me ask you a question, sir. As a public street, though, if your business was in downtown Beaverton by several of the new apartment complexes that are being built. How would you address safety in the middle of downtown Beaverton on streets with?
No, I appreciate the question. I think when we expand spaces and look at locations, we put factors in. Like I think there's several places I wouldn't put in a clinic or put in a youth facility, depending on the clients that we serve. The location is key. And, you know, the reason why we've expanded, when I took over this organization, it was one facility. Now we have 4 locations. The reason why we've expanded here is because of the amount of youth facilities in this particular area.
Have you asked about rezoning, because you're in an industrial area? And I wonder, in an industrial area, the expectation of it's an industrial area, so you're expecting, I guess that's one of the questions that we kind of struggle with in an industrial area on public streets. What is?
I get that, Ernie, but you know, what I would counter with that is I'm in the back at the end of the cul-de-sac. Our location, we have probably 12, 15 Sage trucks that work here, and we work with our neighbors. They're actually, you know, that's their business right there. And they're so good. We've never had an issue with any of our kiddos in there because we work together. I agree with Todd, like these trucks that are coming in here, they're from out of state, they're from other spots. They drop them off. They're bringing in other trucks to work on their trucks. I mean, I got a picture from last night of another truck that was out there in the middle, blocking off, working on that.
Right. I appreciate that part. I'm just trying to understand and gauge sort of the position of the like an opinion where I'm looking at in an industrial area, the transport truck that's making a delivery that's coming from Seattle because they're going to drop off. Some of the testimony before was that if I show up and try and drop off at a store and they are not open, I'm not allowed to park. Then they pull over, or they've hit their limit of driving. They're waiting for the business to open. That's the coming and going. They're transit. There are definitely some transit people too. So I'm just trying to gauge what your thoughts are on where, what if these people go to another place where there's children nearby?
Yeah, and I get that, Ernie. I understand what's on your shoulders. I'm just emphasizing, you know, it's not just Aim High here. It's 5 other companies. I understand that.
I was just taking it as a whole, though, if they move somewhere where there's another place with children.
So, and I like to, and what I would like to also add to that for the record, Ernie. So, I've spent 20 years working as a consultant for the largest grocery chains in the world, which is Kroger. In this area would be Fred Meyer and QFC's, and working on the transportation, distribution, and everything else on the business aspect. So I know the trucking, I know the rules, and I guarantee the rules are not going to park down. They have specific places that they're allowed to park that their organization tells them where they can park at. They have places to go, not public
pretty
roads.
Good size there. Those, yeah, they're pretty big. They've got huge parking lots. Mr. Urbanski, or sorry, Commissioner Urbanski.
Yeah, a question for Doug.
Yes, sir.
You've emphasized children a lot, autistic children, all kinds of children. How many children actually walk along Bethany Court as opposed to being driven to these various places like the Oregon Gymnastics Academy and the martial arts? From when I look at more local places where I live, I don't see anybody walking there in their gi. They're being driven by their parents. So is it a real issue that kids are walking along that street and there's a danger that they may get hit by a truck? Because if that's the case, then surely the problem is not the trucks that are parked, they're stationary. It's all the businesses along that road. So are you gonna say we should ban trucks from driving down that street? You know, the legitimate businesses there, as Ernie said, this is a business area. Are you suggesting we shouldn't have any trucks driving around there? Because surely they're a bigger hazard to the children than the parked trucks that aren't moving.
Sir, so and I appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. I have no issues with trucks coming in for deliveries. So we have Oregon Hot Tubs, that's between myself and OGA, as well as Sage in the very back receives deliveries with semis quite often. And there's one thing about delivering product. And there's another thing of just parking your truck, abandoning it, or also having it maintenanced in the middle of the road. And so, you know, with the amount of students that OGA, myself, and Indoor Goals receives, there is a lot of parking. Like for instance, there's a lot of parking behind that back cul-de-sac where OGA and Indoor Goals park, and that's additional space for them to use in the evening time. But we can't park on that side road because there's trucks there all night long. We do a lot of events because the city invested in, I don't even know the thousands upon thousands of dollars that the city just invested into that walkway to get people to go to the park, and just like that shortcut through there. We have our students, for part of their training is in the martial arts studio, is they go to that park for exercise. Our clients in the daytime that goes to the medical clinics, they need their exercise. So we don't have a spot for them to exercise in the daytime. So we use the path that the city made for us to go on, and we stay on the sidewalk, we go. But it's really scary if you get a car flying down the road that's not paying attention, and you've got all these trucks there because you can't see. I mean, I would be happy to share you more photos and send them over. And I know that, you know, a lot of people have already done that. I know this is it's not your guys' technically issue, but we need the support on here, because I promise you, I'm not just somebody that's coming here to raise an issue for no reason. We've asked and asked and asked, and nobody will look. And I feel like it's gonna be that time, that one accident, because we wanted to help a trucker that lived in Washington that had no reason parking there.
Yeah, I mean,
So to answer your question, I
we
said,
can
yes,
probably
I
all
think we
agree
should
though
bound
that
it.
nobody wants trucks in their backyard because they're unsightly. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I'm trying to balance that with the safety issue. I mean, I wouldn't want trucks parked on the street where I live, you know. So we're trying to balance these different perspectives. There's nobody here from the truck owners to, you know, plead their case. They may have a legitimate reason why they need to park there. I don't know.
I mean, sir, I don't think that's a fair statement. I mean, if I need to get an ambulance back here to one of my children that's having a seizure and they can't get to the back, or the fire, there's no way a fire truck can fit there. Like, I mean, I don't know how that's
No,
how we're
that's a
feeling sorry
problem.
for
If a fire truck can't get through or ambulance can't get through, that's a real problem. I agree with you. Thank
All
you.
right, other questions? Thank you. Appreciate that, Doug. We'll
Thank you.
definitely consider all your thoughts, and thank you, and appreciate that input and the passion. Definitely a lot of passion there, so thank you. Ms. Werner?
Yes, we have Lisa.
Lisa, thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Barely, you're very quiet.
Oh, okay. How about, does that sound a little bit better?
There you go, microphone close. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So hi, my name is Lisa Haviland. I'm the Executive Director of the Oregon Gymnastics Academy. Our address is 16305 Northwest Bethany Court. We are Suite 103, 105, 109, Beaverton 97006. So first I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our concerns. I want to thank both Doug and Todd for their testimony. I agree with everything that they have said. Our organization, as Doug mentioned, is a nonprofit. We currently serve about 1,800 students a week. And my concern with the trucks is safety. I have a couple of things I wanted to address with Mr. Conway. One of your questions was what is different between now and what it was like in 2020. So OGA has been here for about 18 years. We've never had trucks parked on our street. I do very much remember when they were doing the survey of the street, there were signs. And we talked with our landlord, and they had said that they were going to go to that meeting. But at the time, it was not an issue. We did not have trucks parked on the side of the street for days and days. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The second thing I wanted to ask is, it seems like the conversation of safety versus the truck's right to park there. I'm not understanding that. So these trucks are not a part of any of our businesses. They are simply coming and storing their trucks there. As both Todd and Doug said, they are conducting business on the street. And I guess what I'm trying to understand is why that is of concern to you as the commission. Hello?
Okay.
Well, that's what I'm trying. I'm just trying to understand why safety versus trucks coming in and parking on our street, how those are comparable. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So my concern then is strictly, it is safety. So you were asking about kids, or somebody was asking about the children being on the street, walking around the street. So in OGAs, in our situation, we have people who park on the street occasionally. And so those people are opening their doors and their kids may be getting out on, the street side of their car, and there is no visibility whatsoever. There is also no visibility for people who are coming out of, we have 2 exits out of our parking lot. If there are trucks parked there, they cannot see the street. So it really is a safety issue. And to Doug's point, what our concern is that our concern is that we're going to have a child who is hit by a car. That is what we're concerned about. And I understand that we are in, we're not in a residential area. I understand all of those things, but for us anyway, speaking about our business, we need the type of facility we need certain ceiling height to conduct gymnastics. So that's why we're in this type of business environment specifically. So again, for me, it is just really about, it's a safety issue. And
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If one clarification, if I could, ma'am, you said that people sometimes park on the street. They actually don't park on Bethany Court. They're parking on the connector road between Bethany Court and Twin Oaks Drive. Correct?
We do have people who park there, but we also have people who park on the street. We also, Sage, who Doug pointed out, is at the very end of the cul-de-sac. We work with them. So we have overflow parking there. So we will have people who park in the Sage parking lot at the end of the cul-de-sac and then walk their children up past our first parking lot. And then we have a little path into.
Right. Yeah, I see that. But you also said you were worried about cars, and so did Doug mention the concern was cars and the traffic and the moving vehicles. And these are all parents. These are all people with children who are dropping off children. I'm trying to understand, the issue is the cars that are driving or the parked trucks?
The issue is that so when our customers are driving, everybody comes, or most people come from COrnell down Bethany Boulevard. When the trucks are parked on the side of the road, there is no visibility into the cul-de-sac. So you cannot see. It could be a car accident that's happening.
So is the concern that the cars are speeding through there because they don't slow down?
No. The concern is that if you don't have, as a driver, if you are leaving OGA at 7 o'clock at night and you are coming out of our back parking lot, so where you're talking about that side road is, and there is a truck parked on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, you cannot see. So as you pull out into the cul-de-sac, you literally cannot see another car coming out until you are past that truck. There have been multiple times with me personally pulling out where I have almost had a car hit me. There is no visibility out of that parking lot. Further, if trucks are parked on both sides of the street, only one car can get through at a time. You cannot have two cars going through down the street, which is not safe. And if you have cars who are, you have customers who park on the street, not a lot of them, because there's a lot of trucks, but there are people who park on the street. I myself try to park on the street. If you are trying to pull out and get to the cul-de-sac, again, your line of sight is totally impeded by these trucks. And so while the bigger concern is that there could be an accident and a child could be hurt, and I think allowing these trucks is making it likely that that will happen, the bottom line is that it is not safe. There is not enough room for two cars to get through. There is certainly not enough room for a fire truck to get through. And so for me, I guess it would seem to me that safety is the most important decision that needs to be made here. And so I'm not understanding why we're having a conversation about the rights of truck drivers who are just storing their truck on the side of the street and then also not following the rules and only staying there for 72 hours.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miranda?
I have two questions. One is, so there is no truck parking on that connector street, is that right?
Do not park there, no.
Okay, and so when you are driving out of, when I look at this, when you're driving out of your parking lot, you are basically driving into that connector street. And you could also go to Twin Oaks Drive and not to Bethany Court. Is that correct?
You could, but there's trucks parked over there too, and it's hard to see there as well. And if you needed to turn left there, you certainly would have no line of sight because we have a truck problem over there as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was in Bethany Court, the trucks are starting, where are they parked? I saw some when I was going by there, but it wasn't really, I must have missed all the heavy duty parking there. But so what I saw on some pictures was that they were on both sides, but also I only saw the last part towards the cul-de-sac, not necessarily on the front end there. Is that correct?
No, they do park. So just to clarify, I think what you're talking about is up near where Aim High is, that first building. So yes, they do park there as well. And they certainly start on the inside closest to the cul-de-sac. And then as more and more trucks build up, they extend further out. And that when trucks are parked by Aim High, that really, the way of the curvature of the road, that really does impact people. So if you're at the traffic light crossing COrnell coming into Bethany, you can't even see your way down that cul-de-sac because that first truck blocks your line of sight entirely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Any other questions? Commissioner Urbanski?
I'm just looking on Google Maps to get a feel of how busy, the roads look there. And just for reference, there are no trucks being shown on Bethany Court at all on Google Maps. But when you go on that connector road, it's full of cars, but they're all parked on the right side of the road. In other words, they're facing North Twin Oaks Drive, suggesting that at the end of the day or after the class or whatever, those cars are going to go to Northwest Twin Oaks Drive, not onto Bethany Court. So is that true? Because that's the impression I'm getting from looking at these
Not necessarily.
That
I
all the
think,
cars are facing that way. and
yeah, well, that's because
it's
they're
difficult for them to
entering.
do a
Yeah.
U-turn on that narrow road, and the
So the
logic
cars,
for them to continue to Twin Oaks rather than going back onto Bethany Court.
okay, so a couple of things. So the cars that park, so halfway on that road, we have an entrance into our parking lot.
Right,
And
I see
so
that.
the people who park behind there generally pull up, go into our parking lot, circle around, and go out between the two buildings. So there's an exit right there. And then, yes, the people who park past that entrance into our parking lot generally go out through Twin Oaks.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, like I said, we also have overflow parking at the back for Sage, and then people do park on the street.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, I appreciate that. And again, appreciate the passion and the time to speak and bring to light. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Werner, were there any other?
Doug and Todd both have their hands up again. Do you want to do new testimony?
Are you introducing new testimony here? I don't want to go into, I'd like to allow the commission time to speak. This is a pretty passionate one though. We'll just entertain a quick comment. No questions though, thank you.
Okay, this is Doug.
Yeah, I just want to leave it for the record. I'm somebody that's been a part of boards and committees and things myself in the past. And usually, not to point any fingers, but I want to say normally when you listen to testimony and things like that, it's not coming off where we're feeling like we need to kind of defend the situation, kind of reiterating what Elisa said. I really felt like this was not trying to grasp of what's going on, but more us having trying to defend, a long-going issue. And I'm just asking that in the future, when people have issues and safety concerns, that you address it as like, I get it. You guys probably deal with a lot of people coming with a lot of passion and maybe anger and things like that. But coming into this, really feeling like we're trying to defend ourselves. Well, what we're trying to do is trying to save lives right now. We're not trying to like come at you. And I really felt like today that, it was more that we were on the defense because we're looking at, why are we having the conversation regarding trucks compared to children's safety? And so I would like to just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Todd Griswold.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. And I'll just kind of short here. There are a lot of kids that I see going to OGA. They're just excited as heck to go and do what they do. All you guys are parents. You've had kids go do something extracurricularly, and they're excited. It's not always often 100% of the time that the parents have the kids get out on the side of the street where the curb is and the sidewalk. And if they have to park between a couple trucks, or there's only one truck there, or there's trucks on one side or the other, they get right out of the street. And that's not always healthy. And that's kind of the last thing that I want to put into there. We're all stressed. We're all going through what we're going through right now. And I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that and appreciate the follow-up. All right, with that then we'll close public comment portion. Mr. Khasho, are there any follow-ups right now?
I have a couple of comments regarding that connecting street that was mentioned. This is not a street. Actually, it's a driveway, and it shouldn't be used as a street. There was some talk that if people park there, they're all facing north and they'll continue on Twin Oaks. They'll go to Twin Oaks and then they'll exit to Cornell Road. I believe they all get out on Bethany Court because it has a signalized intersection with Cornell. So it's easier to make a left or go through, or even make a right. It's easier than Twin Oaks. So just for clarification, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions, Mr. Khasho? Okay, I have a couple then. I want to clarify, Mr. Khasho, so you can understand, I guess well, we'll come back to the comment portion first. And perhaps this is for Sgt Mastripolito as well. The time limit cannot be enforced because this is an industrial area where there is an expectation of a trucker or a business delivery or whatever you want to call it that they could park. I thought at the beginning there was a comment about the time limit rules couldn't be enforced because it's non-residential.
There's a city code currently about truck parking overnight in residential areas that are, the CSOs currently enforce that kind of like in the core down in the Highland neighborhood. We've had some issues with truck parking. So we can use the city code as the violation to enforce that, but the code specifically says residential area. And I don't know that this would qualify as residential given it's all business. So I don't think, and I could confer with the city attorney and get back to the commission, but I don't think we could enforce that portion of the city code on that street. I may be mistaken, but I'd have to double check.
So you would need to change the city code.
While cumbersome, that could be an option to, you would word it to eliminate all truck parking on all streets in the evening.
Well, where I'm now, I think it was more the 72-hour, because I think where the struggle that I'm having with is that the commission ends up with requests very similar to this, that fundamentally the problem is I am in this particular situation and the parking is this particular situation, and basically we need no parking, we need to move. It's a public street. We were overturned one time because we went with the person because of safety. That was, in my recollection, I think the only time we've been overturned by city council, who said parking on a public street is the right of people. You can't tell somebody they can't park in front of their own home. And so it's a gauge and a balance, and I'm trying to understand if there are rules in place in here to prevent that long term. And I guess that's a follow-up question then. Servicing a vehicle, can you actually, is that a violation? No ticket, I can work on my car in a public street?
That there's a city code against working on your vehicle on a public roadway. So we can enforce, that can be enforced through code enforcement.
Okay.
The 72-hour, we have ticketed some, like Commissioner Urbanski had asked, when the trailer is detached from the truck component. My CSOs have ticketed those individuals on occasions where they've left it for several days when it does cover the 72-hour. But a good number of them are overnight, where it's business. They'll park it in the evening, they'll get in their sedan or get picked up, they'll leave, they'll come back the next day. So that's the bulk of it, at least on Bethany.
And the last question for you then, sir, the 167th seems to be working very well. The commission, this one side of the street is why I think we're discussing, and several people have brought that up. That was also a concern about safety. It was near the school, it was near the park. The group, the business that was across the street, big concerns about that. We put no parking on one side, we allow parking on the other. I believe it's 48-hour. Have not heard a complaint from them since. So that seems to be a very successful model that is a potential option.
Yeah, our biggest streets up there are Bethany and Twin Oaks. 167 is relatively quiet, I would agree.
Okay, okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I could, maybe I could pull the numbers and get back to everyone. But I looked at this morning, and definitely Twin Oaks is our biggest complaint.
Right, and I completely concur and could see that. So thank you. Are there questions, or I'm sorry, there it was. Commissioner Miranda.
So I was wondering about I wasn't quite sure because I went to North Waterhouse Avenue before, and that's a residential area, so trucks cannot park there, right?
Correct. There's a limitation to how long a vehicle can park in a residential neighborhood. And again, it's for safety
Yeah.
because they do stick out so much.
Mhm.
It causes, and the streets are so much smaller in the residential neighborhoods that it causes vehicles to veer in oncoming traffic to get around.
But then they could park there for a certain amount of time and then they move again.
Well, sure. If you were unloading, if you were moving in and you were unloading, you could park there. But
No, what I'm trying to figure out is, if we, for me, what's the biggest concern here is that those, this is public streets, there's public parking. And when we restrict it, those things will go somewhere. The trucks will go somewhere. But where could they go? And will the neighborhood, like that little neighborhood around the Waterhouse and Northwest Waterhouse Avenue end up with trucks in their streets? And
many of the businesses or the individuals we've contacted over the years don't live in Beaverton, or at least in the area. They're just using that location, that entire area off of COrnell, as convenience. I don't think they would really push into the residential neighborhood because
I see.
They would probably just find another similar location, either closer to 185 or some other spot where they could park them.
Thank you. Commissioner Bobadilla.
Is it possible to put time limitation parking there like they do in downtown? Just saying in certain areas, like you could be loading and unloading, but you can't do it for more than 2 hours or anything like that?
Who's that directed to, Commissioner Bobadilla? Is that oh, you're on mute now.
Khasho or even Mastripolito. Curious, is that an option? Could we even entertain that?
Sure, you could have time limits on it. But then people who actually park on the street, they will be limited to that time you put in.
I understand, but it's options. But even like it's more of a hassle, honestly, for a semi-truck driver to have to worry about having to go move his truck up the street or another, for 2 hours, versus it's common when people are employed. They do that all the time, and downtown Portland and even in Beaverton of that. So it means just options. Nothing's going to be perfect. Could provide a solution.
It is an option. Yeah, it will take care of the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Urbanski. You're on mute, sir.
Is there such a sign that says restricted parking for trucks for, let's say, 2 hours or 4 hours? Can you specify what kind of vehicle the parking restriction is for? The time limit.
You can, and that's what we posted on 167th Place and Twin Oaks. It says truck parking 48 hours. And so they're only limited to 48 hours to park there. You could do it truck parking 2 hours.
Because if I understood Officer Mastripolito, you can't do overnight ban on parking, is that correct? Because it's not a residential area. So even though Mr. Griswold sent us a picture of a typical no overnight parking for trucks sign, we couldn't put one of those up in this particular area, is that correct? Because it's
Mr. Khasho put it up for they have the ability to do it from the parking side of things. I'm just talking about from the city code. References residential areas for the parking side of things.
Okay. So an option would be to have no overnight truck parking. Another option would be 2 hour parking limit for trucks or something.
Right.
Like
So if there was a 2 hour limit,
ban.
On a 2 hour limit, my officers, my fourth officers would go up there and talk to tires and then come back in a couple hours. If the vehicle was still there, they would get a citation. In the hope of educating folks that they need to move. more regularly.
But either way, it would stop the kind of people leaving, you know, trailers and things there for 24, 48 hours or even longer. And
hopefully
somebody had a legitimate reason to be there for 1 or 2 hours because they're doing a delivery, be able to do so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bobadilla.
Thank you, Chairman Conway. I just wanted to follow up, and Commissioner Urbanski. So, could could that still give you the ability to tow away the smaller trucks if they stayed overnight?
It would give us the ability to start the process.
I understand there's a period where you get warnings and that, but I just wanted to.
Right, we generally afford them an opportunity to correct the situation. But if someone abandoned their vehicle at that point, we could impound it, definitely.
Well, just the word gets around, and that's how people learn, and that's how people take it serious.
Sometimes when we tow one, the rest of them will leave.
Exactly.
That's happened, I'll be honest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions right now? Okay, well, one follow-up then. I'm not sure, Mr. Khasho, both, and I appreciate time, Sgt Mastripolito, because we put you kind of on the spot for some of these. The question, the comments, and everything again, what I'm struggling with is an all or nothing, because we've revisited and we've had certain areas where we've just gone back and forth. The same thing when the homeless situation, it was put upon the traffic commission that there were safety issues because people were parking and basically abandoned the vehicle because they were camping there for long periods of time. And it seems like an all or nothing is not the solution. There's some pushback though to one side of the street. When I look and hear the conversations and on the visit, and again, we've done this a couple of years now, the Twin Oaks situation, it feels like there's no city code that addresses the problems that are currently overwhelmingly, as Sgt Mastripolito noted, 167th, we restricted parking on one side, we put 48-hour parking, and we have not heard a comment or an issue from the business that originally requested that change. Twin Oaks, though, I'm hearing and seeing is a problem. And this, Bethany Court now is a concern. Traffic, the reason these people started parking there is that we've seen it all over the city. We're running out of room, and the whole process of Metro and the urban growth boundary is we're gonna infill with density versus spread. So is there no city code or teeth that address the problems? Because it feels like you're asking the traffic commission to address denying of parking on a public street for a safety issue because we don't have teeth to fix an ongoing issue. And I feel like this just keeps coming back over and over. And the crux is we want to restrict parking on a public street because of safety. We're running out of public streets. And it feels like, in my opinion, with all due respect, that you're kind of putting the onus on the traffic commission to deny parking on a public street because, and I understand safety. I don't want anybody saying I'm not against safety. I'm absolutely for safety. But when I look at this and I do it, it seems like this is not the forum. If you cannot write somebody a ticket that you know is abusing the situation, and I'll use Twin Oaks as an example.
So
that's where I'm going.
Some of the challenges, we could obviously look at the abandoned vehicle component of the city code, which we use quite frequently in the residential areas. And we've actually used it for box trucks in neighborhoods before. A lot of the trucks up on Bethany don't stay long enough. So like I said, they come in the evening, they park the truck, they leave, they come back in the morning, they pick the truck up. With the bigger ones, we just don't have, one, the expense of towing the larger vehicles, and two, having a company that has the equipment big enough to tow the larger vehicles. That's why when you look at Twin Oaks with all of the RVs that are on there, a lot of them are there because we're just trying to figure out the resources on how to. I can't get the tow companies generally to take them because the abatement price is so expensive that none of them want to deal with it. So we ticket where we can, and we try to educate. My officers actually reach out and contact business owners or vehicle owners, and eventually we harass them enough where they move. But for some of them, it's just we ticket them every few days. Some of them incurred as a business expense, believe it or not.
I appreciate that.
So.
Thank you. Mr. Khasho, any thoughts on the situation?
I believe all available options were discussed, but we never focused on one option. I mean, at this time, we could do it all or nothing. We could have no overnight truck parking. We could have time limit for truck parking.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, because I think, again, it feels like the commission is kind of, at least in my opinion, doing that. And I think I've stated the point. I would rather not completely restrict parking on that. It seems kind of an extreme go over. I'd be interested in somebody else's opinion about a similar 48-hour restriction and beginning it, because as we've noted, we do not need to, changes that we make are not set in stone, and this is a moving issue. Sir, Mr. Khasho?
One option could be restrict parking, truck parking on one side, and that would help too.
Now, and the 48-hour sign, I'm sorry, Ms. Werner, Werner?
Oh, I was gonna say, Chair, she's just helping me out, Chair.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see it in the white. Thank you, sir.
No, when you're done, I was gonna say I have a comment.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I don't have a question for anybody. I just wanted to share, the deliberation. I just wanted to kind of share some comments. I really want to kind of recap or focus back on what we're trying to accomplish. And I would just, thank Mr. Khasho, the traffic engineer, for all his work. Thank all the written and public testimony today. I think this isn't, like you're saying, Chair Conway, this is not an easy solution for me personally, because the comment has been made, this is a public street. It's not my street. It's not the businesses, it's not the residents near the street. It's not a private driveway. It's not a private gated community. It's a public street. I can park my car on any public street that says, no park, that doesn't have no parking. I can park my car in front of Ernie's house if, I want to. It's a public street. So we really have to have justification of why we're going to restrict access to a public right of way. So I think that justification was presented well by Mr. Khasho, specifically on safety. The comment about if trucks are parked on both sides of the street, the 46 wide street is down to 17 plus feet. That it narrows the street where two-way traffic cannot proceed. And like others have said, if trucks are parked, then two-way traffic cannot get through. Large vehicles, emergency vehicles may not get through, or cars are now driving in head-on-head direction to get through. So I think that's definitely a safety concern. I think also the visibility is a safety concern that was mentioned for two reasons. If a vehicle is pulling out of a driveway and the trucks are parked too close to the driveway, you can't see. And I think we had that with a different street where the city engineer doesn't need our approval to say, people should not park within, I think, 25 or 50 feet of a driveway. That's just like something they can do on their own. So that's something I think is a good idea. If there's cars parked too close to a driveway, it's hard for any vehicle pulling out to see. And then if you have pedestrians crossing the street and there's trucks, then it also makes it difficult for the pedestrians to see and any vehicles that are driving to see those pedestrians. So I think Mr. Khasho in the public testimony has, at least in my opinion, justified there is a safety concern. Now, that being said, there's also, the city engineer guidelines of, I'll make sure I read it correctly here, provide safe vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian movement, but also accommodate the parking needs of residents, businesses in a safe and equitable fashion. So one thing I did not agree with is, I don't know any city code about storage. I don't know, like there are codes that trucks can't park in residential, but that's not everywhere. That's only residential. So there isn't any specific law or rules that you can't store a vehicle. Now there is the abandon, you know, if it's been abandoned too long, that's not necessarily storing, but I'm not aware of a rule or ordinance that says I can't park a truck, a trailer, if need be, on an industrial street for as long as I want. It's a public space. I got there first. It's a public street. So I think that's something I'm just not clear on the behavior. Like if we're trying to discourage people from storing vehicles, I think that's a different conversation. Also, I strongly disagree with the overnight parking. I think restricting overnight parking doesn't resolve anything that public testimony said. The people that are pedestrians are there during the day. The vehicles are going in and out of the driveways, I'm guessing at 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're not there in the middle of the night. So I think those are things I personally don't think are applicable. And then also the comments about nefarious activity. Like if people are concerned that trucks, breed additional poor nefarious activity, I think that's something the Traffic Commission doesn't have control over, and that would be best used to contact the police if there's things like that. So it really goes back to Mr. Khasho's original recommendations. Like, is there a justification? Is there a safety concern to say, hey, we should restrict parking on both sides or one side? To me, I think there is enough of a safety concern, at least to do one side of the street. I agree that trucks need to have somewhere to park, but is that parking a higher priority than safety if the street's too narrow, or if that creates a visibility concern? I would say no. So I think I'd be in favor of at least agreeing as written, or at least agreeing with one side of the street based on everything I've heard today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Commissioner Urbanski first.
Yeah, I agree that for safety issues, one side of the street should be no truck parking whatsoever. I still don't think that complete banning truck parking on both sides is the right answer for various reasons, but one of them, which we haven't really discussed at this point, we're only banning trucks, yet everything I've seen in magazines I've been reading, the sale of RVs has gone up through the roof over the last 2 years because of the COVID pandemic. So when all the trucks go, does it mean we're suddenly going to get a lot of RVs parking there instead of trucks? So we're going to have the same problem again, and we're not really addressing that issue. So I think putting a time limit for any kind of parking may be the way to go. Let's say 4 hours, that will discourage anybody from parking overnight or leaving the truck there. It doesn't really need to have a good reason for having it left there. Just something to consider. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Miranda.
Yeah, I agree with that consideration. Actually, exactly what I was thinking about. One of the things, I think we should just not allow any parking on the side. Any parking, no parking of the cars or anything on one side of the street, and that's particularly the stride going towards the cul-de-sac, because that will also limit the trucks in a way, because they will have to go through the cul-de-sac and out and park, right? So that might actually cause them not to park there as much. That just an inconvenience factor. And on the other hand, I also agree with Commissioner Urbanski about the whole idea of having other things than park there. The space will be taken by somebody, and that will be as dangerous because you can't see out of certain areas with bigger vehicles or bigger SUVs. It's also not so easy to see. I mean, that's why I think the best thing would be actually to just not have any parking on one side of the street, and then on the other side, limited truck parking, and other parking would be okay.
Thank you. One question, Commissioner Miranda, clarification on that. And I like the idea, and I appreciate that. I think of Portland and some other streets where there's only room for one car at a time to go either way, and they seem to make that work, but it invites other issues. So I appreciate your concern, and Commissioner Urbanski as well, for bringing up the point about, just restricting trucks doesn't mean that RVs can go in there. what would the restriction be for parking with cars and or trucks?
Yeah, no parking.
At
No
all?
parking
No,
on-
no, I'm sorry. No, so no parking on one side, but on the other side, you said limited parking. What would that limited parking?
On the other side, I would also limit the time, like 48 hours.
Okay.
Since that is not covered through the city codes possibly. So that might be actually useful to have.
And that's all vehicles?
Well, it probably would be easier if it's all vehicles. Again, following Commissioner Urbanski with the idea of other kinds of parking suddenly showing up there. So it probably would help everybody to make that very clear. That that's the limit.
Thank you. And a quick follow-up. Thank you, Vice Chair McClean. Some excellent points I wanted to loop back on. It was very good and well spoken. Commissioner Bobadilla.
I would like to see something that if we're going to allow no parking on one side of the street, I would be open to that. I would really be open to more having a time limitation, kind of something like I mentioned earlier, like Portland, which would make it so across every vehicle that covers even in the future, should there be an RV, should it be a car that's staying overnight, things that could potentially come back to us and entertain. I really think that, this is my opinion from seeing that if we would have something like that no parking for more than 4 hours a day, any and all vehicles, employees might be inconvenienced, but it would solve a bigger problem. They take their break, it happens a lot of places, and they go move their car and get back. Truck drivers, it's going to be more of an inconvenience. That's what the problem that's happening. Even if it was an RV, it's going to be an inconvenience. They're more likely than not going to park there for overnight because they would be violating that rule. So we wouldn't even need to worry about putting a rule for no parking overnight. So just some thoughts to think, and I would be open to something like that.
Thank you. Are there other comments, discussions? If there were no parking on one side, it seems, I think I heard the Commissioner Miranda, that it would be on the inbound side, the north side.
Yes.
And there would be limited parking on the limited parking and limited time on the outbound side.
Right, and I'm thinking 48 hours, not necessarily as short as 4 hours, but that's a different structure, and that could also work.
And again, I remind everyone that we're not to this. Many of the things we have revisited, we've gone through. I think we went through 167 several times. Nothing set in stone. I do like that we're not making a blanket change first. I do understand and appreciate all the other comments as well, and think that the first step is to make that change to eliminate parking on one side. If that works, then like 167th, problem solved. If not, then we revisit it. I believe that we're not, I think the one thing I've learned in my own opinion is that the themes and issues that are coming up about safety and parking, and Vice Chair McClean made it very good about the issues and concerns and the balance of everything involved, that a step at a time seems to be a better way, because it does address safety and it does take care of concerns. With that in mind, then I would make a motion that we restrict all parking on the north side of Bethany Court, all vehicles, all hours, and restrict southbound parking for 48 hours for all vehicles. And that would go from basically the current section that it is now.
So just a question, I guess, for the fellow commissioners. Help me understand why all vehicles versus just trucks. How does the all vehicles impact the safety? if it's just a sedan or, you know, normal vehicle.
Are you
So
saying
that
on the, on north side?
On either, you were saying no parking at all on the north side and limited 48 hours on the south side. I'm just trying to understand what, you know, Commissioner Bobadilla and Miranda said, to be fair for all vehicles, but I'm trying to understand like the safety. If a regular sedan is parked, do you think that's going to affect the visibility or the safety?
Yeah, definitely. So when there are cars parked on both sides, right? It doesn't matter if it's a truck or if it's a sedan or if it's a what's it called, an RV. They always will only be one lane in the middle. I mean, it's almost, I haven't seen that. People don't drive like in Europe where they squeeze beside each other. It's always, it always is, you know, like one car. So the safety would be always an issue, whether they're, you know, and that's why I said no parking on one side at all. And then limit the, you know, make it easy, limit the parking on the other side for 48 hours for everybody. So then we have covered also the possibility of having RVs move in or campers and that kind of thing. So this is more that kind of thing. But the main thing was that the safety is really taken care of by not having anything on one of the side of the streets.
Well,
That-
I can chime in. You're presenting the question to both of us is depends your definition. Some trucks are pretty big and can be having and hauling. You can all of a sudden have a landscaper with an F-350 that has a lot of equipment that is pulling it, is parking it. So I just wanted simplicity, and it just makes it much more complicated, and it protects a lot of, but that's just really why.
Okay, thanks.
No, I agree. It's an excellent point. It just, it opens it up, the sight lines, everybody that walks, that's an open sided sidewalk, it's clear. The sight line then becomes totally clear because an SUV still blocks a child. A pickup truck blocks a child. A car now is such that there are blocks, and if you have the children coming in and out, then you're on the sidewalk, it's clear, people can see. And again, to my point, we don't need to take care of all of it all at one time. I firmly believe that we can do this in steps and iterations. And if it works, okay. And if it doesn't, then we go back and address it and we change it. But to go all the way over and then back and it just seems like, let's address safety, and no parking on one side of the street for anywhere just makes sight lines for everyone clear. And it's an excellent point, Commissioner Miranda. If you allow parking on one side, cars are still not going to try and pass each other because their sense of perception and their vehicles are too big, right? You watch them, if they don't have the camera, they make a 9-point turn to back out of a parking lot sometimes. So it's just. So there, Commissioner Urbanski, and then, there
Can I
went.
just ask, why did you suggest restricting the parking on the north side rather than the south side? Because
the reason for that is
COrnell would want to park on the right, wouldn't they? Otherwise,
but they have to come in now. So what I was thinking was, so when they come into Bethany Court going towards the cul-de-sac, right? If they cannot park on the right side, it will be, they will have to first go into the street and then turn around and then drive out and park. That will be already inconvenient for big trucks, is my thinking. So therefore,
but it also makes it more dangerous if there's anybody there, because
well, the other reason is
all the way to the end.
The lady Lisa, I think, was particularly concerned about the trucks parking on the north side, because that's when they come out of that little connector street and they can't see that another car is coming in. You see what I mean? And so I thought that's why it also makes sense not to have stuff hanging out there. The other driveway from the other side, it has more space. It can go around the corner. And, you know, because our traffic is that way, that's my thinking.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it would encourage people to be doing K-turns or three-point turns, as we call them in England, all up and down that street, just so that they can park on the legal side of the road. Otherwise, they're going to be facing the wrong way.
Oh, you mean like, yeah, but the trucks can't do that anyway.
I think the other issue, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Bobadilla had a question. The other issue, though, Commissioner Urbanski, the reason for that is that what we heard is that there's ample room to park off the street, right? Cars, the only reason that I think Ms. Lisa with OGA said is that there was a need for them to park on the connector street. Otherwise, there's room in the there, or there's overflow parking at Sage. So no parking on that one side opens that whole area up so that when you're trying to leave, the safety factor is then open, because you don't have to worry about, there's not a tunnel to get through anymore. You have a wider access, you can pull out, you can see. And these are parents that are coming in all the time with their children. They're going to be knowing that I need to be aware, and their sight line is better as they come in, because they know to stay to the right because there's no parking, right? If you have one vehicle and 2 car lengths behind where the no parking to the viewpoint is, everybody has to go around, and you've completely defeated the purpose of opening that up. Commissioner Bobadilla had a question though, or comment.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled. Maybe I'm not understanding the whole purpose of a problem with the 48 hours, people parking there for up to 48 hours consecutively. And then after that, there's the power of citation. Even when you cite a vehicle, I'm not a cop, but just kind of going from the rules perspective of law, they got to be given a notice even before they can even get towed or anything. That puts us back into the same situation. It just takes longer for the law to even become effective and to have teeth. Am I missing something here?
What's the difference between 4? How would you enforce 4 versus 48? And over on 167th, it does seem to be working.
Well, how I thought I heard testimony, maybe I didn't, from Officer Mastripolito that they have officers that go around and do rounds, and they would be able to do those. So that is something.
I think he said using the chalk, but I'll make a quick comment. I agree if we are restricting one side to do the north side. I still would have a question whether it's 4 hours or 48 hours. If we're restricting on one side, does that adequately solve the safety concern about 2 vehicles driving up and down the street, how too narrow, and the safety concern for visibility? If it does, then my question is, why do we need to restrict the opposite side of the street to 4, 48 or anything? What does that accomplish to increase safety? Because again, my personal opinion is storage is not in our traffic, traffic guidelines. I don't know anywhere that says the term storage. People can't park if it's a public space. Now they can't abandon their vehicle, but I still don't understand if restricting one side improves safety because it prevents the street from being too narrow and it allows visibility to pull out of a driveway. Obviously the driveway's from the north side. What does limiting how long someone can park on the south side improve safety for my fellow commissioners?
That is an excellent point to my motion. Thank you, sir. I think that the question of storage though came up as not so much storing your car. The car has to, I think if your neighbor's car, your neighbor has 4 cars and they park 2 of them in front of the house and they don't typically move, the fact that they drive or go is different with it, but you also have a 72-hour deal. I mean, if you want to get picky, I suppose, correct me if I'm wrong, Sgt Mastripolito, you could call the city and say, hey, the guy's car has been there more than 72 hours and hasn't moved. Well, technically that's a violation of the code, but the guy just drives it around like I think Commissioner Bobadilla said New York or something, but that's an excellent point. I think that's where the storage piece came from. That would be an excellent start too. You would see how long that goes. I think it's interesting that somebody hasn't picked up a business where towing a truck and I could make some money on that one because there are tow trucks for trucks, but if I were a tow person and you needed to get your $100,000 rig back, I won't happen very often, but Anyway,
right,
so
Conway.
one
You're-
follow-up on this. I'm sorry, Commissioner Bobadilla.
I just want to, Sharon, you're absolutely right. It is, but it's actually, as even I deal with some of this with Officer Mastripolito. It's very cost prohibitive, though. You need some good space. But you're right. Once it gets towed, oh my gosh, they find their way and they are scared. They are like, because those fees are so high and every day, they find their way of how to get it done. If we could ever accomplish it, one or two of them being done, would probably solve the problem because they would not be wanting that situation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Moore?
Yes, I believe I was looking to address Vice Chair McClean's question about why we were looking to prohibit in increments, back to what Ernie had suggested, as opposed to going all the way to 4 hours. Don't get me wrong, I would love that 4-hour deal if we could enforce that and have the capability of having community policing to get those 4-hour tickets or warnings out there. However, if we're trying to do things incrementally and then to see how they're working, then 48 hours is definitely an opportunity to do so. That's an increment. If 48 hours isn't working, if we're not seeing the response we need, then we might need to bring that down. And we have room to do that. I know we don't want to have to keep re-evaluating the same areas over and over. However, there is always room for making changes. And if there's something that can be done at the city level that the engineering department can, the city engineers can help with, then that's, you know, another way to step up our game, if you would.
So
Okay.
can I second your proposal?
I was just going to say, so
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now,
I
so
second.
currently what we have is we had a motion made. You can either make a new motion or you can second that one, or we can keep going.
I second yours.
Okay, so motion was made for no parking at all times, all vehicles on the north side, and restricted parking to 48 hours, all vehicles on the existing parking area on the south side. Motion was made by Chair Conway, seconded by Commissioner Miranda. Are there final discussion on that? Okay, in that case, then we'll do a roll and continue on. So Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Bobadilla?
Aye.
Commissioner Urbanski?
Aye.
Commissioner Miranda?
Aye.
Vice Chair McClean?
Yes.
And Chair Conway, aye. So that motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And again, I want to appreciate everyone's comments and input and thought on that. And as we've just mentioned, this is not a final piece. This is a first step. If you feel it's working after a while, excellent. If we don't, then we revisit it. But I believe that we have initially addressed the primary safety concerns. And I think the agreement of the commission finds a good balance. So I commend everybody in this one, because this was a difficult problem and everybody working together to find an optimal solution. So thank you. With that in mind, then, given the time, I believe we should do a few-minute recess before we do the other. I don't anticipate taking quite as long, but I did see there were some comments and there were a couple of questions. Ms. Werner, do you know if there's anyone is going to speak on this?
On TC 831,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, so
But one went up.
okay, so I still believe that it won't be quite as lengthy. So I believe we should take a.
Now there's two.
Okay, so I believe we should take a 5 or 10-minute moment, unless there's someone wants to. If people want to continue, then by all means. But I wonder if anybody needs to take a break. That's the better way to ask. If not, we'll keep right on going.
I'm fine, Chair Conway, if you want to continue.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Vice Chair McClean. Then in that case, then let's continue on. We will open the public hearing portion of TC 831. The chair comments still apply. And we'll begin then with a reading by Mr. Khasho. Sir.
Project design for the traffic calming plan on Southwest 155th 155th Terrace was accomplished in accordance with the adopted neighborhood traffic calming program procedures. City staff held virtual neighborhood meetings with residents of the Southwest 155th Terrace project area. City staff and the residents during these meetings explored solutions and developed a traffic calming plan for this area. At the time, we had two different options. The current option that we have is attached to the report, which includes 2 median islands and 1 speed cushion. The other option actually had all speed cushions. And at the meeting, the neighborhood decided to go with the option with the median islands. Also, the city held a virtual open house, and the plan received high approval rate from the people who attended the open house. A support survey was conducted by the city to determine support of the proposed traffic calming plan. In October 2021, a copy of the proposed plan and a response card were mailed to all homes within the project area, as identified in the traffic calming program. 25 response cards were sent out. 17 of those came back with a yes response. 1 card came back with a no response. And the remaining 7 cards were not returned. The proposed plan received 68% approval rate, and this rate exceeds the old approval rate that was in the traffic calming program, which it was 67%. And this project actually followed the old program before it got adopted just recently. So actually it exceeds both the old and the new. The estimated cost to construct this plan is $30,000. And currently in the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 21-22, this amount is identified in the capital improvement plan. So if everything goes well, the plan will be constructed hopefully starting in the spring or summer of this year. With that, we're asking the commission to approve this plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Khasho. Appreciate that. Commissioner Miranda, I appreciate the questions that you had initially on that. So thank you very much. Excellent. Excellent investigation. I had some of those same questions. I thought I'd bring them up, so I'm glad you did. It was a good case in point together. Vice Chair McClean, did you have a comment, please?
Yes, it's a quick question for Mr. Khasho. With the virtual meetings you had with the neighborhood and that virtual open house, can you share approximately how many people participated? Was it like less than a dozen? Was it more than 2 dozen? I know there was only 25 cards went out, but do you know off the top of your head, if you remember approximately how many people participated in the virtual neighborhood and the virtual open house?
I wish I have the numbers.
That's okay.
To give you, but if my memory served me correctly, there was close to a dozen in the first meeting. Then the number got less at the second and third meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, with that in mind, then we'll open the public testimony portion. Ms. Werner, I'll let you take them in the order they were brought.
First person we have is Jennifer Congi.
Thank you, Jennifer.
This is Anthony Congi, stepping in for my wife, Jennifer, who had to go put the kids to bed. So thank you for that. So we live at 15569 Southwest Wren Lane, which is one house in from Southwest 155th Terrace. I'm going to reiterate the letter that we sent to Commissioner Khasho. Thank you for the time that you gave to her, sir, in recommending this audience. So while we do support the calming of the actual traffic itself, the main concern that we have surrounding this project really is in regards to how it impacts the actual parking that'll take place on Southwest 155th Terrace. So We're wondering, will parking still be available on this road if these speed bumps, cushions, however you describe them, or medians are installed? The reason we ask that is because currently on 155th, it accommodates some overflow parking from the apartment complexes that are in the vicinity. So if these cars are no longer allowed to park on 155th, our concern is that they will begin to use Wren Lane and Thrush Lane to park. So again, our home is located right off of 155th. We feel we would be directly impacted if this were the case, and really do not have a desire for the extra traffic issues currently happening on 155th to be deflected to the streets that we live in, which are more residential than 155th. And then to constantly have unknown persons, vehicles parked in front of our homes, obviously less than ideal in regards to overall safety, safety for our children, access to our own vehicles, access for garbage, recycling services, etc. So with that in mind, we would just love to just bring up that concern, and maybe some, if there's an option to maybe hear what the solution could be in regards to that.
Thank you, Anthony. One follow-up question now. You're concerned the additional cars coming from where?
So on the south side of Scholls Ferry, there's a large apartment complex. On the east side of 155th, there's another large apartment complex as well. So again, right now on 155th leading towards Scholls Ferry, that street right there is where we're seeing a lot of overflow from these apartment complexes.
Right, you're talking Trillium Woods?
Correct, Trillium Woods,
Okay.
as well as the Meridian, which is right next to it.
Right, that, yeah, they just, yeah, and we actually had a question a while ago, just down the street from that, and I was trying to find where that was. But okay, yeah, I totally understand that. So thank you, appreciate that concern. Do you get I'll forego that. I think it's kind of putting you on the spot there. So all right, thank you.
I'm okay. You can put me on the spot.
No, I just wonder, is there a lot of parking in that area back where 155th goes in? I went back in there, but it
so if you're looking at the map right now, which I am right now, so where Scholls Ferry connects to 155th, this is kind of a one of those preserved green space areas that are now required. And so again, a lot of 155th right there is where we're seeing some of that overflow from that Trillium Woods. And again, our concern is.
I'm sorry, Anthony, I meant on the other end. Is there any kind of input from coming over through that where there's no stop sign back in that area? I just wondered if anybody.
Towards which direction, sir?
I guess north, but there's really not a.
Yeah, it gets very much residential at that point, and obviously we're on a hill right there, so it's really kind of between Wren and 155th where we're seeing the a lot of those apartment parkers.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, Commissioner Miranda.
Yeah, I will also put you on the spot. There is not, Anthony, there is not a lot of parking anyway in your street, as far as I could tell.
Correct.
All the streets are really tight and there is hardly anything. So even if you have visitors, you probably need parking sometimes on those parallel streets to.
That's correct. We have a garage facing the front. So for example, you can't park on the garage right there.
Yeah.
And so as we know, as new neighborhoods go in, they're packed in as tightly as they can. So yes, it does not leave a lot of room on those sidewalks. And then, for garbage services, for example, we have to take it all the way out to the street. And so a lot of times those are placed directly in front of what would be a parking spot on, the Monday that the trash services come, for example.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, totally clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Urbanski?
Yeah, I'm looking on Google Maps right now and looking at 155th. I don't see any cars parked on that road right now. So, but you mentioned there's a lot of people parking there from the apartment complex. So my question is, how are they actually getting from their cars, they park on 155th, back to the apartment complex? Because there's a fence that runs the whole length of 155th, at least from what I'm seeing on Google Maps. And so there's no easy way for them to get from 155th to the apartment complex unless they walk all the way to Scholls Ferry Road.
It's
So
a
I'm not
crime.
sure if you're seeing the
I'm
most
gonna-
up-to-date pictures from when Google took these images. A lot of this neighborhood was built in 2018 and past that. But what they're doing is for the folks that are, so we're on the north side of Scholls Ferry. These apartment complexes are on the south side. So they're parking on 155th, walking across Scholls Ferry to those apartment complexes.
Right. I'd like to interrupt and let Mr. Urbanski, Mr. Khasho had his hand. I believe he's got a comment on this, which would help us.
Mr. Chair, I like to share my screen and show the plan and explain where those cars are parking and where
Excellent.
the
Thank you,
traffic
sir.
on is. So if you'll give me a second here.
No, we cannot.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Let me zoom in a little bit, so make it a little better. On this side, on the right, it's Scholls Ferry Road, and Snowy Owl is the end of the street here. Where people are parking now is that first block between Scholls Ferry Road and Werner Road. So they park in this area here. That's where people are parking. Sometimes they park in this short area here. They do not go, they don't go past this point. So by having the islands, this is one island here, and this is the second one. Parking will be restricted at the island and 50 feet on each end. So basically this shaded area here will be parking will be restricted. The same here, between here and here. The remainder of the street, they can park on it too. This small area here, they still can park in.
So was the whole area about 150 feet of no parking?
You mean before this plan or with this?
What? No, I'm trying to identify how long the actual no parking, newly created no parking zone is going to be, and how many parking spaces are actually being removed. I think was part of the question. The first question was how many are being removed because how many are being used and how much overflow will.
Yeah, let me see. Just yeah, it's 150 feet of no parking. Yeah. So between here and here is 150 feet.
All right, and then Commissioner Urbanski, I'll let you continue. I think was there, or did you have a follow up to that? Does that help?
No, I think I misunderstood. I thought the people were coming from a different apartment complex.
They're coming from across Scholls Ferry, and there is easement in there. If you go up and ride along there or walk, there are two fire gates where the fire department can unlock that and drive through. I think there's also an easement walkway, so it's not all fenced completely.
No, I misunderstood. I thought they were coming from the apartment complex on the north side of 155th.
Oh, gotcha.
But there's a fence there stopping people getting.
And a pretty big cliff. It looked like.
Yes,
as you go over that. Okay. You go over that. Okay, very good.
Clarification.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna stop sharing at this time.
Thank you. Anthony, did you have any more, anything else to add to that?
Oh, again, thank you. The one comment about the apartment complex opposite 155th, there is some breaks there where folks do come up and park in that area and then walk down. There's some breaks in the gate. They come up to smoke and all that kind of stuff too, kind of right in front of the house. That's a whole other issue too. But I guess more than anything, we just are more concerned that if there's, I'm not sure what 150 feet would do, how much that would bring other people into it, but that would be our main concern. Is we already have a lack of availability in front of our home, and obviously it's not ideal to have the apartment dwellers come up into the actual homeowner side.
Thank you. All right, very good. Ms. Werner next. And thank you,
This
Anthony,
is-
appreciate that.
Miss Rudy again.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I guess I think that you pre-planned for people to use public transportation more than was expected. So literally 10 years ago, when I lived in Devereaux Glen, they literally they had half the spots to the amount of units. And it was because of city planning, and they expected most residents to use public transport. I think we're dealing with that again, and I think that needs to be looked at.
Okay, thank you. And that applies, so your concern here is that,
On twofolds, both here at Progress Ridge, as well as in Devereaux / Tannisbourne.
okay, but we need to limit right now, we need to limit the comments just though to this 155th Street Terrace though. And we can address the other ones.
Ernie, as someone who has an autism child, I really have a loathing.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think as a one follow-up, I believe that I would encourage the city, based on Ms. Rudy's comments, that the HOP program really be encouraged and discussed and broadcast, because I believe that this conversation is an excellent point about that there's not enough for the apartment. We saw that last month and we saw that again. So as a quick side note, I would definitely encourage the city to please make sure that everyone is aware of what that program is, because it's not a city, it's not a county, that's a state mandate. I think I'm trying to remember who actually posted the link last. Was it Commissioner Miranda who posted the link for the lifting the restrictions by the state of Oregon on developers to not have to put in enough parking? So quick side digression on that. I appreciate that comment, because I think it brings up the point that the city is working on that and they're trying to explain what Beaverton is going to do, but I would wholly encourage them to broadcast what the implications are and what is being done and how that was a community endeavor. So thank you on that. Ms. Werner, were there other comments?
There is another hand up, Sam.
Okay. Thank you, Sam.
My name is Sam Voss, and I live actually across the street from Anthony. And I wanted to point out that one of the principal tasks that Mr. Khasho was trying to solve was 155th Terrace being used as a drag strip. So one of the issues we have there is the speed of the vehicles cutting through there. And an additional issue was just brought up that both of the parking complexes indeed use those areas for parking from time to time. It's less of a problem this week than previous weeks, not sure why. But I did not want us to overlook the fact that the speed of the traffic was one of the principal issues we were trying to solve there. I should also say that I represent the Westmont HOA as the president. And my street address is 15566 Southwest Wren Lane. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any, I'm sorry, Commissioner Miranda?
Yeah, actually, this is really great, Sam, that you are here. I was wondering why you wanted to have a speed cushion all the way on the top of the hill, because what I was seeing when I was there and looking at all of that was that really the speed doesn't start there and doesn't end there. It actually starts as soon as they are past that speed cushion on the top. They will go rushing down to Scholls Ferry in a crazy speed. I've seen it. But then also when you come up, people are speeding up because that's a hill. And then they are stopped on the top where they are already lowering the speed. So after all this blah, blah, blah from me, why only a speed cushion up there and not a speed cushion down on the bottom, or some kind of hindrance of speeding there?
That's a fine question, and I'm not going to give you a very straight answer. I will rely on Mr. Khasho for that. I think the discussion that we had in the previous meetings pivoted around what is the minimum amount that needs to be done to lower the average speed in that area. And I believe what was proposed was a way to minimize the effect on emergency vehicles, general day-to-day traffic. And in other words, to keep it so it's a very usable street, but not to cause an extreme amount of changes to the road, and minimize the expense too. And Mr. Khasho, if I'm missing a salient point here, I certainly defer to you.
Thanks. Thank you, though.
No, excellent. That's very good. Thank you for that explanation, Sam. I think that's really good. Are there other questions? Thank you, and I do appreciate and commend you and the neighbors for getting together and doing this. I so appreciate when we see a consensus that works, and whether it was the old guideline or the new, to see that it met both of them is just, it's really good to feel a solid, wonderful consensus. So thank you, sir.
Thank you to this team.
All right, with that in mind then, are there, Ms. Werner, any other? Okay, perfect. With that in mind, then we close the public hearing portion and have some deliberations. I think that the loss of parking is a balance that the community found, and we'll see what happens. Commissioner Urbanski.
Question for Engineer Khasho. So the way I see the traffic calming here, there are three things. There's the speed cushion on the extreme left, 155th, and then two medians that were put in further to the right. But those medians restrict parking. Was there any thought about putting 3 speed cushions instead? Because that would also calm the speed, but take up fewer parking spaces, which we heard from the first speaker is a potential concern. In other words, instead of those 2 medians that were put in, was there any thought about putting speed humps or cushions there instead? Because you would have lost fewer parking spaces.
When we developed the plan and working with the neighbors, as I explained during the report, is we had an option with speed cushions where those islands are. And we ended up having 2 options, and the neighborhood decided to go, or people who attended the meeting decided to go with this option, with the 2 median islands and 1 speed cushions. When we look at traffic calming devices, typically we like to space them between 300, 350 feet. And we work the street, like every 300-foot section. We say, okay, certain things you could have at that location, certain things you cannot. And every location you could have maybe a speed cushion, you could have a median island, potentially you could have curb extensions. And they pick and choose what the neighborhood would like to see on the street. And at the end, these 2 options that we were able to develop working with the group and agreeing on those devices, but at the end they have to pick one, and that's what they picked.
But they were aware that they would be losing parking spaces by going with this option?
Yes, they were aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Commissioner Miranda, and then Commissioner or Vice Chair McClean.
Yeah, so one question I still have, Mr. Khasho, the stop signs, there are stop signs from Southwest Wren Lane and Southwest Trush Lane, but not going up the hill or down the hill, whichever. So why not put in stop signs? I mean, it could be even additional, but why not stop signs? Are they not effective? Maybe people. I don't.
Yeah, you mean having stop signs on 155th Terrace?
Yes, exactly. Stop signs that stop them right there. And then, it could be even with a bump over there instead of having the medium, but anyway, stop signs I thought would be
Yeah.
useful, but maybe.
The purpose of stop signs is to assign the right of way. And that's where you cannot, or drivers have a problem, you know, figuring out who has the right of way.
Oh,
That's where you
I see,
install
I see.
stop sign. Or there is a visibility issue at the
I see.
intersection where you have to stop everyone and let them, you know, they'll take turns and go.
So that's
Stop
okay.
signs are not intended to be a traffic calming device. Even the manual and uniform traffic control devices, which is a national standards, it's mentioned in the manual. That's the first thing about stop signs. The reason why, also where you would like to have like always stop, typically the traffic volume is little high on the intersection, and it almost all legs have the same amount of traffic. But when you're in a situation where the main street has a high amount of traffic, the side street does not, and you have an always stop, drivers on the main street with the high volume of traffic, they start looking, no one is there, why should I stop?
Okay.
Put it in, it creates a safety issue, and people start running the stop sign, and all it takes is one person, you know, one miss it, and you'll end up with a tragedy. For those reasons, stop signs are not used as a traffic calming device.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much.
Ms. Khasho, two quick questions. So just so I have my math correct, how many feet are necessary for just a typical parking spot? Is it like 20, 24 feet?
Between 20, 25.
Okay, so if I'm doing my math right, if there's the two medians, 100 feet on each side, 400 total feet, that's about 15, maybe 18 parking spots that could be no longer available?
So let's say it's 25 feet, so you have 6 parking spot on each median, so that's
Okay.
12 vehicles, yeah.
Maybe 12, okay.
No, parking is not allowed on the other side, anyway.
Correct, yeah. It's not allowed on the east side.
Okay, and then so the second question is, if for some reason this did not get approved, would the neighborhood lose its opportunity to get future traffic calmings approved? Or if we decided we want to make a change, would that have to be something that the neighborhood would have to re-vote on?
Yeah, the reason for this hearing is to get consensus, you know, and give a chance for the people who don't like the plan, have a chance, you know, last chance basically to comment on the plan before it gets approved. That's why we bring it to, you know, this hearing. If, let's say, the traffic commission decide to deny this plan, then what we need to do is go back, work with the neighborhood again, and try to come with a different plan. But there need to be a case that this plan needs to be rejected. So I've never seen it. I've never seen any plan being denied. I've seen some that got tweaked or moved the device, you know, a few feet, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I just want to clarify, because definitely, I mean, if we got a 68% majority, even though it's a small number of votes versus some other traffic calming, I just wanted to make sure that if for some reason we didn't agree on the plan as written, the neighborhood still has an opportunity to come up with a new plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Vice Chair McClean. One follow-up to that then, Mr. Khasho, in a situation like this where there were some points brought up and you know, it wasn't unanimous decision, but what are the options to the neighborhood? We approve it because they decided and agreed on it, but they do find now this could use, as Vice Chair McClean noted, maybe it does need a few tweaks, or what are the options to the community at that point? They don't start it over again? Do they modify what we've already created?
It all depends on the tweaks, you know, what kind of changes you want. Let's say you need to take one of the devices out, then also you need minimum 67% approval you know,
That's
from the
right.
people
Okay,
who
you're
are
right.
close to that device to be taken out.
Excellent
And
reminder.
I keep saying, you know, you have them in, they're gonna stay most of the time.
Right. Okay, very good. Thank you. That was a good reminder. Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner Miranda.
Yeah, okay, this is my last question, I promise. So if we say that, or I mean, okay, so why, maybe you should ask this one, why is that first median so far in? Could it be moved further forward, which also, you know, like maybe even 50 feet or something like that, and then they would lose only 4 parking spots, because at the beginning of the street there is no parking allowed, so they wouldn't lose any parking there. So could it be, why not? So that is my, I promise, my last question.
Actually, this was considered during the design, but the reason we pushed it in away from the intersection is due to the intersection with Scholls Ferry and the grade on Scholls Ferry. When cars are turning right, most of the time they need that space. Even there was complaints about the cars going to the other side of the street, going over the center line. So that's why we pushed it in, and we're gonna add the center line near the intersection.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everything and work the community did, and also, Mr. Khasho, I appreciate the meetings. I think Ms. Werner probably assists you as well, and I know that these are not always easy, and there are definitely a lot of meetings to get open house, to get opinions, and then to get everything done. So many thanks and appreciation to you on that. I would make a motion that we approve as written and as recommended TC 183 traffic calming on Southwest 155th Terrace between Southwest Snowy Owl Lane and Southwest Scholls Ferry Road.
I will second the motion to approve TC 831 based on the 17 property owners that have already voted yes on it.
Thank you. Final discussion, and that is an excellent point, Vice Chair McClean. Thank you. The consensus of the community is definitely a reason for supporting it. No final discussion then. Roll call. Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Bobadilla,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbanski,
Aye.
Commissioner Miranda,
Yeah.
Vice Chair McClean,
Yes.
and Chair Conway, aye. So that motion passes 6-0 with no abstains and no notes. Thank you. All right, next up then, there was no old business to report or follow up on, Mr. Khasho?
No, not at this time.
Okay, and was there any new business to bring up?
I don't have any. I just have a comment about the TC 830, that we will rewrite the final order and we'll bring it for approval at the next meeting. We will not be having a meeting next month. We don't have any issues ready to bring before the commission, so we will meet in April.
Excellent, thank you.
In April.
One follow, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Vice Chair McClean.
I was just going to say real quick, record keeping on the draft TC 831, the one we just approved. In the draft, it actually says 826, so that might need to be corrected.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. We will do that.
All right, and then under, I guess, new business is a follow-up, so we're not having a meeting next month. As I guess a reminder for myself and everyone, Mr. Khasho, how does the follow-up for the concerns about the Barrows section done? Do you help reach out to the NAC, or do you, how can we make sure, I guess, that they get that going? They said they were going to reach out, but is there a follow-up that we can help with?
No one explained, what we have been doing. In December, we met with the neighbors at the roundabout, and we went over the issues and problems they mentioned. Some mentioned few things that were promised by the previous public works director, and all these things were implemented. Signs were changed, advanced sign, the delineators were added, actually twice. We did the delineators. There was one other thing that it was mentioned. I'm just blanking out on that one.
There was the signs, the lighting.
The lighting, yes, the lighting. The lighting also, they upgraded the lighting at the roundabout. So all these things were done. Recently, we also added the speed display sign that tells you what your speed is, and that was added for the westbound traffic. So we did all these things. We monitored the crashes. The majority of the crashes, people are under the influence or drunk. No matter what you do and you try to do, if the person is under the influence, as much as you do, you can't prevent those. I think the key for these things is education and enforcement. And we're working with the police on this. We're planning to have a meeting to see how we could increase the police presence and do the enforcement. Another thing we're looking at is, at this time, we are collecting data, traffic data, and speed data. We're going to see if there's a chance to lower the speed on Barrows Road from 35 to 30. But you're familiar with this process. We have to meet the state requirements to lower the speed, and it's up to the state to lower the speed. It's not the city. So based on the results of this study, we can determine, does it have a chance for the speed to be lowered or not? And if it does, it will be brought before the commission for approval prior to submitting a request to change the speed on the street. Yes, the street is complicated. The area is complicated due to jurisdiction. City jurisdiction, basically, city owns the half of the street from the center line to the north. The other half is Tiger. You get to the roundabout, 2/3 of the roundabout is kind of inside the city. The south third of it is in Tiger. Rorschach Street itself, it's a Washington County street. Residents on that side, they're all in unincorporated Washington County. You go a little bit to the east, there are residents who are in Tiger. You could tell from the addresses they mentioned, some even have Portland address, but actually it's Washington County. So there is 3 jurisdictions are involved with this. The agreement with the city of Tiger when this happened is that the city will do the maintenance work. We'll do the maintenance work. Whatever Tiger want to do, we'll do the work, and we basically bill them for that work we do, or we share it with them. That's the agreement with the city of Tiger. At this time, we will be working with the other 2 jurisdictions to see what ideas also they have. If they have something different than what we do or what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Vice Chair McClean.
Sorry to skip Commissioner Moore, but on this topic, I just want to ask 2 questions to Mr. Khasho. Was there any discussion about boulders or physical barriers on protecting some of those property owners?
The thing is with boulders, and it's considered fixed objects, and those typically they are not installed. What we call is a clear zone. And clear zones, in an urban area, it's 10 feet from the face of the curb, typically, and you don't want any fixed objects within that area. The reason why, if somebody hit it, the chance of that person getting killed is more than not having it.
I understand. No, I just
And
wanted that
for those-
explanation.
Yeah, for those reasons, yeah, we don't install.
No, that makes
bollards.
that makes perfect sense. I think just a quick comment just for everyone is, I think on these situations, if the drivers are not following the traffic design, I'm not sure how changing the traffic design is going to improve safety. I think me personally, this is a great opportunity for the city of Beaverton to increase drunk driving awareness, passing information out to local establishments that sell alcohol, making sure that those establishments have policies in place to monitor, who they're serving alcohol to. That's, I think, a more effective way than changing streets. That's me, just personal opinion. But I just want to get that in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also,
Sergeant, oh,
may
I'm
I-
sorry, go on. Yes, sir, Mr. Khasho, please.
Just if I can continue about what we're doing and what we did. There was also some talk about the landscape and that we rejected the landscape. When you landscape roundabouts, you have to be careful too, where you can't just put trees around it and you'll be fine, because you have to maintain the stopping side distance where the drivers in front of you, you'll be able to see them and stop. You have to be able to see pedestrian crossing on the other legs when you're turning around the roundabout. So we did evaluate the side distance within the roundabouts. And our operation crews are working on a planting plan. So they will be adding more. You can't have too many trees within that roundabout. So yes, plants will break, the view that there is some change, a street doesn't go through. It will help. But like I said, you have to be careful what type of plants, how big they are, how tall they are. So there is a plan in the works that we will be planting the roundabout.
Thank you. Sergeant Shaw.
On the enforcement side of things, we do sit down there on Barrows. It's a difficult spot for us actually to sit near 160th, back in those homes there, that home area, and we find sporadic work for us to enforce, but for the most part, there's not a lot for us to do down there. So I'll just give you kind of an idea of what the enforcement looks like down there. Also, just to add, like what Mr. Khasho said, those crashes that are happening down there are happening for reasons, many different reasons, from alcohol to falling asleep to some are speed, but it's just like the roundabout at 155th and Teal, right? I mean, you have people that drive into that roundabout. That roundabout happens to be much larger than this roundabout down here in Barrows, but there's the land to do it up there, and you just end up with people in the middle of the roundabout sometimes because of various reasons, whether they're drunk or not paying attention or on their cell phone or for whatever reason. So we are doing enforcement down there, and it's not productive really for us. We can sit down there for quite a long time, maybe an hour.